Everyone, we have 6:01, we can call this meeting to order.
Yeah.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Awesome. So first item on the agenda is a public hearing for an outdoor entertainment license. May want to throw a motion on the floor? Go ahead, Jim. I'm going to call on somebody like it's a classroom.
Sure, motion to open public hearing for the outdoor, motion to open public hearing. Second.
For the outdoor entertainment license of
Do I need to
Volume RV, just so we know which one it is.
Yeah, for the outdoor entertainment license, applicant Volume RV LLC, DBA Volume.
Thank you. We have our motion. We have our second. We'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Madnick.
Yes.
Almatano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And Wilcox. Yes. And we have the applicant here, so you can kick us off if you don't mind.
Hi, I'm Ryan from Wallow.
Hello.
Nice to see y'all. Do you want me to, I don't know if you.
If you'd like to share, I know you come back the past few years. We have a whole new council here, so if you want to share a little bit about what you do, just in case.
Okay, I'm the general manager at Wallow Campgrounds. And this is our second season owning the park. And I'm been in front of you for lots of permits. So I'm returning tonight for two more.
Awesome. Any council discussion on the application? All right, I have one thing then. The only thing I noticed is the grant of waivers. We can't grant waivers unless they're entities that are charitable, religious, or civic. And if you don't fall into those categories, I don't believe we can.
What's the waiver?
There's a bunch of boxes checked about a few different conditions surrounding safety. I'll have to pull them up so I'm not misquoted.
Oh.
It happens a lot. A lot of applicants kind of just check these boxes as they're going through. But it has to do with the number of police officers or constables required to be on duty. 2 for the first 250, et cetera. Licensee must provide off-street parking. I mean, I know you guys aren't open to the general public, so it doesn't necessarily apply to you either. And then sleeping on premises not allowed. That might be why you check that box as a campground. That might be concerning that you want that waived. Actually, I don't know the answer on that third one, but we usually we can't waive any of them unless you are one of those three.
Because I think the reason we first came to you for the entertainment permit was for the noise ordinance thing. We only do them from mid-May until October 6 to 9 or 12 to 4. There's and it's not every single weekend. We do different things. We kind of rotate through, and it's not any kind of loud, obnoxious headbanging music. It's pretty chill and country. And we don't open to the public. So that's why I wasn't sure about the police, because it's not, there's no extra traffic coming in. It's not anything where we promote. We don't offer it to the public. We don't even let the bands bring in their fans.
Oh, nice.
That's a no.
Okay.
So it truly is to the campers who are within the confines of the gated area. And it's in a closed off area inside the park. We kind of angle our speakers so they're directed up towards our 100 acres and not down towards the street or over to one of the neighbors. And I don't know whether we got any complaints last year, but that last year was our first season having. We do our very best, and if ever there was anybody who called, a neighbor or anybody who called and said, "Oh, it's band's too loud," we go down and we turn it down or shut it down or whatever the case may be. We're very, very accommodating for those kinds of situations.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other counselor questions?
Chief,
Mark, you got something?
have you had offices there for other public entertainment when they've had bands in the past? No, right.
Only when traffic spills out onto the roadway, but it predated this applicant, and it was for light shows that occurred, and it was like the very first one that they did.
Right.
They had a control access point right near the main road on Gardner Road, and it caused traffic to back up in both directions, which caused obviously headaches for everybody in the area.
Right.
So we had to go up there, ask them to move it, and they came up with a better traffic plan.
And we don't do the holiday lunch.
Right.
And won't be.
Oh, you won't
Right.
be?
No.
Yeah, so I think I would support waiving that.
It's not that I don't support waiving it, it's that the ordinance says that we may for these certain criteria. But it doesn't say we can for people who are outside of that criteria. So, I mean, if the police doesn't feel a need to go to your place, I'm not saying they have to, I'm just saying like, usually, and
If
it's
there-
happened in the past, what I'll do is make a motion to approve without waivers.
If there was a need, we do have a seasonal camper who works for, I think, the town of Exeter or the town, I'm not sure if it's the town of Richmond or Exeter. He was a retired state police officer who does traffic patrol, sorry. Now, as his part-time job. So I don't know if that's something, if you did require, I certainly could find out from him if he's be willing to do the same traffic patrol that he does for Exeter for us, if you needed it. We didn't need it last year, but
Yeah.
certainly we're willing to accommodate whatever you recommend.
All right, thank you. Sure, go ahead, Jim.
So, Madam President, you're suggesting then that this would be approved with that motion without these waivers because they're moot and they're not applicable. And if there was a need, that the applicant could take that on themselves to
Right,
figure out what was needed.
precisely.
Understood.
All right, no other counselors, I think have anything to say, so we'll go to the public. So if you want to have a seat, I'll invite, anybody have anything they'd like to say on the entertainment license for Wawaloon? Or anybody online? All right, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All right, we got our motion and our second. We'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. All right, could we now please have a motion to approve?
So motion to approve the outdoor entertainment license for Walloon RV LLC doing business as Walloon Campground without the waivers.
Got a motion? Can I have a second? All
Second.
right, we got our motion and our second. Well, any further council discussion on this?
So it's a good example of why we need to work on that Title V ordinance because Erin's laughing, she's smiling, but yeah, this is one of those things where it's not applicable. Talking about the waivers.
Awesome. Counselor Dinsmore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. Thank you. Hope you have a good season.
Thank you. We have victualling also. Do you want me to wait for that one to come up?
Yes, we do have a
Okay.
public hearing too. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
No public hearing.
No, there's not. So council, could I please have a motion to open the public hearing for the municipal budget?
So moved.
We got our motion? Motion is second. We'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. So our public hearing's open. I'm gonna go to the public first today because the council's had a lot of opportunities to discuss this. Any member of the public like to speak? Sure, go ahead.
Good evening, my name is Allison Croak. I'm the president and CEO at Wood River Health, locations in Hope Valley and Westerly. I am requesting that the town council consider increasing the proposed fiscal year 2026 subsidy allocation to Wood River Health to the amount that was requested. In calendar year 2024, Wood River Health served 10,428 patients. About 20% of the people that live in the town of Richmond are patients of that center. Primary care, for dental, some combination of the three. So as I prepared my comments for this evening, I thought about what would be the most meaningful to advocate for this increase. And I considered speaking about the primary care crisis that our state and our nation faces, most recently highlighted by the upcoming closure of Anchor Medical. I thought about the funding crisis health centers face due to inadequate insurance reimbursement. And I also considered going into detail about the federal budget discussions and how cuts to the Medicaid program would be financially and operationally devastating for our organization. All of those arguments, while compelling, do not present the human face of how our staff care for our patients and community on a daily basis. So I decided to focus my comments tonight by presenting a patient's. As most of you know, our organization is an outpatient facility. If you haven't been by for a tour, please do. You're all welcome. But we are not a hospital or an emergency room. However, there are times when patients do walk in with urgent needs. On one such day, on a Friday afternoon in early April, two distraught adults rushed into the waiting room in Hope Valley, carrying a 4-year-old boy who was limp, unresponsive, and the color blue. The boy had wandered away from his adult relative's home, was found submerged in a body of water for between 30 and 60 minutes. This is not something we see every day. Regardless, what did our staff do? They went to work, starting with the front desk, who calmly called a code blue medical emergency. Responding to the code were a physician, nurse practitioners, an RN, and a medical assistant. The staff brought the boy back to an exam room. He had no pulse and his body temperature was 86 degrees. The staff immediately began CPR, administered oxygen, prepped the defibrillator. They continued CPR for 10 minutes, with trained medical personnel switching off seamlessly with each other to continue compressions. Meanwhile, the adult relatives were obviously very upset in the waiting room. Our behavioral health team, trained in crisis response situations, stayed with the family to help them stay calm and positive. After 10 minutes of CPR, the staff was able to get a pulse. Hope Valley ambulance was standing by. And once our staff stabilized him, EMS took over and brought the boy as quickly as possible up to Hasbro. He was admitted to the pediatric ICU, put on a breathing machine, and rewarmed. As I mentioned, his body temperature was quite low at 86 degrees. By Sunday, when one of our physicians checked in with the PICU, he was doing so well that he had been taken off the breathing machine, had normal brain activity, and was snuggling with his mom and complaining of being bored, wanted to know when he could leave. The parents and the child stopped by the following week to thank the staff. The boy has made a full recovery. Both the emergency room doctor and the director of the PICU conveyed their thanks, appreciation, and respect to our entire staff. Without the life-saving interventions performed by our well-trained staff, this boy might have had a very different outcome. Without being overly dramatic, our staff did save this boy's life. Health centers save lives every single day. Maybe not in as dramatic a fashion as I just described, but by a daily focus on clinical quality, preventive health care, management of chronic disease. Our patients and our community are healthier with us in it, and I respectfully request the town council increase our subsidy to the requested amount.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else have anything I want to say? I think I saw your hand up, Ms. Dinsmore.
Yes, but I think Helen was before me.
Sure, you want to go ahead, Helen?
Helen Sheehan, Richmond. I'm going to try to stand this way, because when people speak here, it doesn't carry that well to the back. So if I stand like this, maybe people can hear it both ways. I still wish everybody would use your microphones. Anyway. I've been looking at the budget in different forms. I understand from previous town council meetings that there is a proposal to hire 3 new full-time people, 1 contractor and 2 employees, which would include retirement, health insurance, and other benefits. That will increase the cost of the town by a large number when the cost of the retirement benefit and health insurance are added to the cost of the salary. I don't think it's wise in these days where there's not enough money for the things that we otherwise need. I also know from past town council meetings that you would like to raise the pay of the town employees to put them on par with the other towns in Rhode Island. But there is one big problem with the Richmond town employees. That's considered full-time. I know there are some people, but we are not that fast growing a town. So in 2020, we had 8,020 residents. So I don't see adding 3 new full-time employees when we only have, is it like 13 new, the number of new people living here in the last 5 years is not much. If we had money, I'd rather us put the money on the roads, because my street is fine, but there are some parts of this town that are really in bad condition. So I think roads need to be a priority for us.
Thank you. Any other public comments? We only let people address the Counts. Oh, no, you were next. I'm sorry. I called on you and then forgot you
Yeah.
came up and spoke. I'm so sorry. But we do only let people address the council once.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Louise Dinsmore from Richmond. In watching some of the meetings that you've had about the public, the town budget back on replay, I appreciate your due diligence and the level of time that you've put in. With that being said, I'm concerned because Richmond, in my opinion, has a spending problem. And I see that you've been creative in not raising taxes. However, the spending and the growth of this local government for a town of 8,000 people remains concerning to me. In fiscal year 24, Richmond spent $7.2 million on its budget. Just 2 fiscal years later, you are increasing spending to $8.36 million. That represents a 14% increase. From last year to this fiscal year, you're increasing spending by nearly $500,000. To me, that is not sustainable for Richmond. Case in point, you're proposing adding a grant writer to the tune, if I've done my research correctly, of $60,000 for a contract employee. You have the best grant writer on staff now. In my opinion, that's Karen Pinch, the town administrator. She has a tremendous success record in writing and securing grants. I know something about writing grants because that's what I do for a living. I pay some of my grant writers between $500 and $1,000 per grant, depending on the volume of that work. If my math is correct, you're proposing paying somebody $5,000 a month. That's extremely excessive for a grant writer. I happened to be with the town manager of East Greenwich the other night at an event. That's Andrew Nada. He explained to me that East Greenwich does not have a grant writer. And he said he's best equipped to write grants for his town because he knows his town best and he knows what his town needs. So if you can understand my position, I'm opposed to a grant writing position. I believe you're proposing making the Human Services Director a permanent position with benefits. In my opinion, I don't think that this is needed. Or just ask any board member from RICAN. Some of those board members told the last council that this position was a duplication of services that they offer. In examining the fiscal year 26 budget, there's a $450,000 increase to the line called Other. When you have a line marked Other, I would like to know a little bit more about that. To me, that's not transparent to the taxpayers. Before the council adopts this budget, perhaps Danielle or somebody from the council can further explain what Other is accounting for. President Wilcox and the Democrats on the council championed a municipal court for a town of 8,000 people. I personally don't feel a municipal court is needed. However, that is in the budget this time around. I also see in this budget a $27,000 increase in spending for the town clerk's office. We're taking a part-time position and making it a full-time position. There's a $34,000 increase in legal services. There's a $25,000 increase in the recreation budget from last year to this year. That represents a 45% increase. When you look at the recreation line from fiscal year 23 to this proposed budget, it goes from $44,000 to $80,000. There's a 200% increase to the Recreation Commission. There's a $21,000 increase to the contingency line. There's a $63,000 increase to the administration line. Your slate of candidates touted sustainable growth as a tagline. I don't believe that this is sustainable growth. This budget represents government bloat, camouflage behind no tax increase. A 6% spending increase for a town of 8,000 people is not responsible, in my opinion. I urge the council to get back to work and reduce your spending. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add? Sure. Go ahead, sir. Mr. Mayor.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Tom Marin. I'm from the village of Wyoming, here in Richmond. My comments are on the budget, and the title of my comments is Figures Don't Lie. Councilor Dinsmore, Councilors Madnick, Palmigiano, Reynolds, Wilcox. Good evening and congratulations. Thank you for your service on this budget and on your many successes with this Richmond fiscal year 26 budget. It's truly amazing. The figures don't lie. Your numbers are truly impressive. You will not increase the mill rate. You will not increase our property taxes. You will even hire more people to better serve this community while doing the previous two items. Great job, amazing work, for sure. Again, congratulations, figures don't lie. We were wondering, some of us, how were you able to perform such extraordinary financial feats as this? Isn't that a question worth asking? The political experts tell us, though, no, it's really not necessary to answer that question. The only thing that people care about is their taxes. And if their taxes do not increase, they will be happy. And that's all that matters, politically speaking. You've done a great job of that. Besides that, figures just don't lie. And you have good figures. Political strategists also tell us that the answers to explaining this budget are too complicated and confusing for the people. They don't understand finance, budgets, and mill rates. They don't even want to understand them. The people are also not so smart. They're not smart enough to handle this. They don't care enough to handle this kind of an inquiry. And they don't even take time to be here at these meetings. The last meeting had very fewer people than this. Out of 6,000 registered voters, we don't even have 100 people here. So they don't even take time to come here. So the only thing that the council needs to do is follow the example of Marie Antoinette and say, let them eat cake. What if the political experts have it wrong? What if the people really do want to know? They want to know how you pulled off this extraordinary creative accounting miracle called the budget. How can you spend $8 million when you only have $7 million of income? Where did you find that extra $1 million? This is called deficit spending in some accounting circles. How sustainable is your deficit spending strategy? And are we spending money we don't have, we have not yet earned? Are we putting this $1 million on our credit card and our children's credit card? And most importantly, is that the legacy we want to leave our kids? Some things to think about, because as history has shown us, figures don't lie, but liars figure. Do we have another minute?
I actually haven't been timing people because this is the last budget hearing. So I say like, you can submit your comments in writing, but by then it's too late.
So what if, 1 minute, what if political strategists
Yeah,
in the
be
ruling
respectful.
class are assuming and presuming some things about the Richmond voters that may be less than totally accurate? What if the people really do care? What if they really do want to know? And what if they really are smart enough to understand all this financial stuff? You ask, if any of these items are remotely true, where are the people tonight? Why aren't they here to let their voices be heard? I've asked that question myself. They really do care. If they really want to have a voice, those critical questions invite each of us, me, you, to a reality check that should be disturbing, disheartening, and uncomfortable. All too often, we have heard people answer these questions very precisely, dishearteningly, and uncomfortably. They tell us it's not worth it to come here. They don't care what I have to say. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I've heard this so many times. It's a waste of time. They are not going to listen to me. They meaning it's a done deal. They have already made up their minds. Savvy politicians and bureaucrats gladly welcome this pessimistic, fatalistic attitude with open arms. For them, and this is not meaning you, but for those savvy politicians, for them, it is their golden opportunity to get what they want, enrich themselves at the people's expense, to do what is in their absolute best interests, not the people's best interests. Washington is our great model of this template. So let me beseech each of you on the council to resist the powerful temptation which has lured so many to join the ranks of the ruling class who are so savvy at the people's expense. Figures don't lie, but liars can figure. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments from the public? All right, seeing none, do we have anybody online? Awesome, thank you. Please state your name for the record when you get permissions.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Nell C. from West Kingston. Hello? No, I can't hear.
Is she on? We need your full name for the record.
It's Nell C. from West Kingston.
But like, what does C stand for?
Well, it stands for carpenter, but
thank you.
I thought people could remain anonymous, but that's okay. I've seen people use their last initial for last names, but I
Oh.
digress. I have a question in regards to Department 21. Sorry, I just wanted to give you a second to go ahead and pull that up. Department 21 is the Recreation Department. And previous speaker had actually, Ms. Dinsmore, had actually referenced the Recreation Department and an increase. And if you could please correct me if I'm reading it right. It's been a while since I've looked at one of these documents. Is there an increase of 45.4%? If I could just have clarification on that, please.
Well, Department 21 is animal control. But if the right below it, 22 is recreation. Oh, we usually don't go into a back and forth with public. We usually let them finish what they had to say and then we'll respond at the end.
I would just like clarification. Is there an increase of 45.4%? Because if there's not, then anything I say from this point would be moot and I'll just stop now. But I just want clarification if that is in fact the increase.
That's true.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr.
I was going
Magnet?
to the bottom.
Thank you, Mr. Magnet. Department, oh, you are correct, Madam President, it is 22. 45.4. So I'm looking at it and I have some questions in regards to it. A few years back, when the Recreation Commission was reinvigorated, Councilman Palmisano will recall it vividly. When that was reinvigorated, the Recreation Commission relieved a burden from the Recreation Director. And I vividly recall a conversation from an individual who was serving on the commission at the time, Robin Woodmansee. I don't recall if she was in capacity of chair at that time. That's a little fuzzy, but I do remember her being there stating that there would never be an overlap. I asked a specific question as to whether the Recreation Department and the Recreation Commission being reinvigorated would have an overlap of the director, because we pay the director and the commission was volunteer based. So that was a concern I had expressed years ago. And I was assured at that time that there would not be an overlap. And now I'm looking at the proposed budget and it appears there's an overlap. So I have a question in regards to that. Also, with the diminished responsibilities and roles of the Recreation Director, I'm concerned why the department has an increase, particularly when it comes to, I see Community Service Director, and I'll get to that in 1 second. The services, my concern is that there is an increase in the department when there is a decrease in the role the department serves as far as taxpayer dollars are concerned. So to the question of Community Service Director, I had asked a few weeks ago online when a job was posted from the town of Richmond for I don't want to fudge it, what it was specifically. I believe it was the camp director, which historically has been the role of the recreation director. So I'd asked a question online if this was a new position or if it was something that was being absorbed by the camp or by the recreation director. And I never got a response for that. So I think now is a great time. The community service director is a new position under a department that's defined in our code of ordinance. Our code of ordinance, sorry, describes the recreation department fairly specifically. It's not vague. And it states that the recreation director oversees the camp. So now we have some different positions that we've created that the taxpayers are going to be considering when they go in referendum to vote on this budget. We're creating new roles, is my point. And we're creating them when they're already defined in our own code of ordinance. And there's a way we can change that, as you all know. We can change our code of ordinance, but it has to be done the right way. That Department of Recreation can be changed through amendment by public hearing, by amendments being laid out in black and white so that the people can see what they consist of. But that's the process. So my question here is, well, my concerns rather, are we're increasing a department exponentially by 45.4%, which has been confirmed, when the roles are being reduced, and we're also creating new roles within that department that contradict our code of ordinance. So I think the cart is before the horse here in that second part. And I would have liked to have seen the council be more proactive in following how our code of ordinances can be amended, simply, or rather than just throwing something on a proposed budget for the people to consider. So I'd ask this council to follow procedure, to follow our own laws, our own ordinances, and amend that. And if it happens, it happens, then it can be considered for the people to vote on. But I don't think it's appropriate for this to be placed on a public hearing. I don't think it's appropriate for the people to be considering something that's not followed the correct procedure according to our own laws. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on, I'm just writing one thing down. Whatever, I'll get it later. Anybody else online, Erin? Okay. So we will go. Oh, there's somebody in the room. Sure, go ahead, Pam. Please just state your full name for the record.
So Pamela Rowland from Richmond. I am working with the Wellness Committee to support human services and community services in the town. We've been working in that capacity at the behest of the town council for 4 years. I believe the original request for such a committee came from the police department because of the many needs of our citizens that police, like domestic issues, substance issues, isolation of older adults. There's many things that the Human Services Director has been working on in a part-time capacity. And my understanding is that this budget puts together in a creative way some of the other services so that the Community Services Director, which is a new title for an old position, it's not using any more money, but it's using many resources for the purpose of helping citizens in the town, which is desperately needed. We have a resources desert here in Richmond. There's communication, transportation. Many of our citizens are older adults. There's an entire, I'm just learning about, I'm part of the Leadership Rhode Island project that just got started about older adults, and there's a lot of crises, and we need a person or a department to work together for multi-generational activities, supports, coordinating or referring for resources in our town. And so I am I'm standing up to support the budget that people have worked on to create more services for the town, including paving without raising the taxes of the citizens. But you have created a budget that will provide more for the citizens of Richmond, especially the ones that need support the most. Older adults who are isolated in their home. There's many things that can happen to improve the lives of our citizens. And I think that's what you've done by coordinating resources in a way that provides more capital, more paving, more support for citizens without increasing the budget. So I am offering my support for this budget, and we'll be working to gather support among the community for that. And I think we're not overspending. I think we're supporting our staff so they don't leave us and create more expense for us to hire and train new people. I think it's efficient financially, and I agree with what you've done. So that's my 2 cents. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, last, we have somebody online. All right, when you get permissions, please state your name for the record.
Laura, you should have permissions.
Good evening. This is Laura Rieger from Carolina, Rhode Island. I was a member of the Finance Board and have been for a few years. And I just want to state that I think this is one of the best budgets that I've seen, that really takes into account needs of many of the citizens of Richmond. Trying to look forward to taking care of the road issues, taking care of revitalizing Wyoming. I think that our town council has put in a number of hours working on this that people just don't realize. I also don't think people realize the many, many calls that the police have to go out on that they never hear about. And I totally support this budget, and I think they've done a great job. People who have spoken out against the grant writer actually were speaking for the grant writer previously, so I'm not sure what has changed their minds about that, but anything we can do to help secure what will probably be fewer grants thanks to, well, federal issues. I think we need to do it. And I think that since we're looking forward to helping Richmond become active in the recreation field, that it seems reasonable that the recreation department would have a larger budget. Thank you.
Thank you. If anybody else? We usually, no, we don't hear from people twice. Yeah. Thank you though. Anybody else? All right. Hearing none, we'll make a motion to close our public hearing, and then we'll have our council discussion on the budget.
So moved.
Right.
Second.
All right, we'll go for a roll call vote. Councilor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Councilor Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yeah. All right, with the public hearing closed, I just want to respond to a couple of the comments. There was a comment made that we're hiring 1 contractor and 2 employees. Can I have some clarification on that? Because I didn't think we're hiring 2 employees. Who, we have, oh, the dispatcher.
Community service director would only be a half
Okay,
person,
okay.
and then
I was forgetting about the dispatcher, because in my mind, I was thinking about all the overtime it's gonna free up from our police force. So I wasn't exactly, I mean, I know it's technically a new hire, but we went over in detail why that's such a benefit. I also wanted to state for the public that the line item marked other is not a secret. It's not lack of transparency. That's the first overview page. But if you go to that budget item, it's not here today because it was a lot of documents to print. It's like almost 100-page document. It'll break down exactly what other is. And if anybody has issues finding it, reach out to me. I'll be glad to screenshot it and email it to you so you can see it. I also wanted to comment on the rec department and rec commission. I'm gonna be honest, I had a little hesitation with those changes going forward. And one thing that I've been requesting and hope to do after the budget vote is have a very clear, open and honest discussion about what this role is, what it's serving before we move it forward. I do respectfully disagree with the cart being before the horse, the way our council and our administration chose to handle it. I think either before the other is fine when it comes to putting it in the budget versus making an ordinance. But I do think that this way is better because if we get the ordinance established, but then it's not added to the budget for whatever reason, it's a bigger issue than to amend a budget. Especially, I think it's especially a little better because the budget requires 2 public hearings and a vote. And an ordinance amendment just requires 1 public hearing. So while we could go either way, I respectfully disagree there. I think better than council trying to describe the rec commission, maybe, Karen, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but maybe after we finish council discussion or now, maybe you could give a little more detail about what it is, knowing that there's gonna be more later.
Sure.
One thing I've always been on the fence on since the beginning is the name. Community service director, I think of that like, what is that? What does that mean? And I really think it should just stick with human services and recreation director personally. Because human services is so important and so many people, not so many people, I have no idea how many people don't know it exists. I have no way to know that. But I do know from my personal experience that there are people in rural communities who don't realize that this resource exists. So if they're finally looking out for that resource, they may be like, what is a community service director? Would that be the same as a human services director, which is a little more universal as far as those needs? And then it also ties in the recreation part of it. Long, I get that, but unless we can think of something better, kind of where my mind is. But yeah, do you want to explain a little more about the rec commission stuff?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
So,
I'm
the
sorry.
name certainly is not set in stone. Whatever you all decide it needs to be, it will be, but the premise is that I'll just say community services director for now, will be, an overseeing, person for the human services. So assuming that it's still Kate, will continue to do the human services work. She will oversee and assist Dennis at the senior center to do things that he needs help with. And will also oversee the camp director. And in addition to that, she will work with the rec commission to put on all the other events that the rec director will no longer handle. So there will no longer be a rec director. There'll be a summer camp director, and then Kate and the rec commission will put on the rest of the events. Easter egg hunt, Huck Finn, Christmas, all the other things. Trying to think, was there anything else?
The camp part of it?
The camp part of it, later in the agenda, we actually have
Oh,
a
that's true.
hire for a camp director.
There, may I,
Oh,
there's
yeah, sure.
one thing, I think we are anticipating the completion of number 4 Richmond Townhouse Road
Yes, thank you.
this fall. And we are also looking at the opportunity for groups of individuals to utilize that space and looking at rental and fees and scheduling for that. We anticipate that's going to be a very popular property and a revenue generating opportunity for the town. And it's not turnkey. You can't just say, go to the clerk's office. It is going to be incumbent upon this person in this new role to manage that as well. That's an entirely new duty that is revenue generating for the town. And it's a great opportunity. Whether it's birthday parties and donkey rides or whatever they do over there, someone needs to be on top of it. And it's going to be an additional task. That's just one example. We also, it's important when we talk about the Recreation Commission, the rec camp director, or what was the rec director, they're separate pieces, right? We've always had, we had a rec director and we have a rec commission. Ironically, in the past, it was put forth to the voters, but it was declined, but still on paper, the rec director reported in to the Recreation Commission. So you had a paid person reporting to a volunteer board, which was, made no sense. They also have separate line item budgets. The reason I mentioned the rec commission, we have now, for the first time since it's been reinvigorated, a fully staffed fantastic group of individuals that are mapping out what they're going to be doing this year and into next, to bring what I heard on the canvassing trail, one of the most requested pieces in this town after Rose was, we want to have things that we can do in our town. We want to have recreation activities. We heard that. That was a bipartisan request. So I think we have an opportunity with this rec commission, how this changes, but I also want to make sure we mention this property across the street is going to be the gem in the crown of how we bring outdoor recreation activities to this community. So,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
For adding that.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add to it?
I don't think so.
Go ahead, Dan.
I'm sure. Yeah, I was just going through our charter and our ordinances. Try and, I think Ms. Carpenter made a good point. So it's just trying to look at everything. And what I found is in section 2 of our home rule charter and departments, it says there shall be a recreation department supervised or recreation commission and administrated by a director. The department shall be responsible for operation and staffing of recreation programs. Now, in the charter, it doesn't say what that director needs to be, it just says there needs to be a director. So I don't necessarily think that we're violating our own ordinance by combining everything. It just says the rec department is administered by a director.
Charter or
Any director.
ordinance? I'm sorry.
Both.
Okay, both. That's what I thought. I was just making sure there wasn't.
The
flip-flop.
ordinance is a little bit more detailed than what the charter says, but I think combining them, there's nothing that precludes us from creating a new position either.
Mhm.
We don't need an ordinance, at least according to this.
Thank you.
That's it.
Any other council comments on the rec director thing? And then we'll go on to other general comments, I guess. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is that, obviously, you tried to put somebody in a position where they can oversee things and, you want 45%, I think is, I think the question is legit to ask, like, about the 45, that's a big increase, in services. So, I mean, that's almost half of the budget. So, I mean, I could see a 10, 20%, 30% increase, 45. Is that like, do we have a breakdown of what that could be? Or is that just, I mean, is it mostly because is there salary going up? Salary goes up, obviously, your insurance goes up, everything. So,
Yeah, it's in the line items right above it. Like on the document in our materials of the budget. Like there's a different line item for recreation. The first line is community service director, next time's part-time camp director, part-time recreation program, FICA, retirement, like it's all broken down as to what it is. Dues, ground maintenance.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
You might also note that minimum wage increases every year. So all those part-time counselors, their hourly rate is increasing. So that's a portion of that.
Yeah, the biggest chunk though is to Jeff's point is the community services director, the human services, recreation, senior service, all that combined into one new position. That's a $23,447 increase. That's the majority of that 41%. So
Correct. And the
41%, it's $25,000, $23,000 of it is this salary.
right, and the prior, it says community service director there, but it doesn't say the recreation director.
There would be no more. recreation
Right, so that
director.
is not included in the percentage of that going up because it's a
You
new
went from
line.
a recreation director,
Right,
the stipend of what, 13,000 or
so there's
something
no
to
line item
summer
saying
camp.
negative 100%. There's no line item balancing that out.
No, well, it wouldn't be because we still have the camp director, but if you look on the document where the 23,447 is for the director's pay, 8,447 went up to the top to be added, so it came from the camp directors.
Gotcha.
to- So it's not 100% increase because it went up to how pay for.
Don't forget, you also have Dennis, who we pay a very, very small stipend to, who now Kate, that position will be assisting to create better, more and better senior programs, so. I think it's also an investment in seniors.
For sure.
So
Counselor Dinsmore, do you want to make any amendments to this section?
no, but I wanted, can I have another question?
Sure, go ahead.
So since she's gonna be the head and watching all over everything, so then I was gonna ask a question about Dennis. He's getting, it was in 23, I believe it was $5,000. Now he's up to 15,000, is it? 5,000 to 15,000 in 2 years?
No. Do we know what Dennis is?
It did
Or,
come
no, we did go up,
2 years
one-
ago,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm sorry, we did.
I think it was mostly longevity because he's been here for so long.
Yeah, that was not this year, I think that was a couple of years ago, he
Yeah.
went up.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, 15,000.
I mean, the guy's there half days and most days more than that, 5 days a week. So $15,000 is a bargain.
I'm just making the argument for the other side, obviously. As to where it's why people are concerned about a 45% raise and, then you still have another director of the community center. They're doing that. Like, how many directors do we need? Like, I just want to make sure that we're using taxpayer money as best we can.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, we talked about this.
We did.
Rolling the senior center director into this new position. I don't recall where we ended up. Obviously, we didn't change it.
It's my understanding it would be over time. Like, so if and when Mr. McGinnity decides to retire, it would be absorbed by this position. By the, whatever we're gonna call it, position.
Yeah, but we don't need to keep positions to keep someone employed.
Mhm. So if you would like to make a motion to remove Dennis McGinnity from the senior center, you can go for it, but I would not support that. I'm just saying it right now.
Well, I want to have the discussion. We were talking
I
about
don't-
right now, it's, okay, so I think it's a reasonable discussion to have. We're creating a position. What are the roles and responsibility of the position? What are they doing? Is there any overlap? So what are you getting for the spending? I'm not challenging it because it's in the budget. I've agreed to it. So if there are questions from the community about what these two positions do, I think it's worth having that discussion. So.
We have given a really good overview of what the positions are and what they're gonna do. And then when we go to change the ordinance surrounding it, when we create the job description, then we'll get into the weeds about more specifics. Because today we're here to just talk about the budget and have the public hearing on the budget and then finalize it. Go ahead, Mark.
I think the other, just again, talking about roles and responsibilities, one of the responsibilities will be getting camp ready to go, hiring all of the counselors, all of that. So we're decreasing what was the director who did that down to just using a camp director who will basically be the person overseeing the actual operation of camp, but most of the preliminary stuff will be done by the community services director. I'm
I think it'll
assuming.
be a joint effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the piece, continuing to do what she's been doing with seniors and wellness and, the 211 van and the programs that she's bringing in, the speakers that she's bringing in for the wellness, and then also just having oversight of the senior center, with again, Dennis, kind of like the camp director for seniors on the, boots on the ground every day, doing the actual programming and whatnot. But you've got somebody up, above. So I think kind of having that overarching person to coordinate recreation and to integrate better recreation and seniors and wellness, I think makes sense. And everyone keeps saying 41%. Well, in dollars, it's $25,000 that we're talking.
Mhm.
So, and I think it's a good investment of that $25,000 to try to expand the offerings that we can provide to the community and have a more efficient operation in the recreation.
Agreed. I think so as well. Sure, go ahead, Jeff.
Wait. I just want to make sure that we're making the best use of the money. Right? I'm not saying when he needs to go, but like, are we getting our bang for our buck for the money that he's getting paid? That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so would you like to suggest an action, a motion, like something you want to do with that?
Not at this moment. no.
Okay, all right, so let's move on to another topic then, 'cause I feel like we've all had a chance to say something on it. All right, hearing no objections to that. Does anybody have any other topics they want to discuss on the budget? I know we got an email with a few different scenarios from our prior conversation. Sure, go ahead, Jeff. Jim.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the grant writer piece
Mhm.
for a moment. And I know that it's been a great debate, and I think we've heard comments from pro and con on that topic. And I think our approach was looking at it from a contract perspective. And also, because that contract employee is not going to be receiving any benefits from the town, which is good. So, but it was on a trial basis for us to understand whether we were getting return on value for that. We did see examples from other municipalities that had done a similar approach and were able to retain grant funding that far exceeded the expense for that particular person. So that sounds great on paper, right? That sounds great. Now, we'll have 6 months to a year to see if that actually comes to fruition. And then this council can together decide whether that's a good use of that money, right? We want to make sure that we have an out clause on that. The other pieces I would love to hear from Town Administrator Pinch as far as there was a statement that was made about your capabilities with grant writing. You're running the town as well as other things. So just was wondering if you had a statement on that. You know, you've done great work with us finding grants on a number of things. Where do you see the value of this grant writer to take it even further? I was just wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, sure, go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't have the time to research grants. When, you know, when things end up in my lap, that's one thing when someone calls and says, hey, there's a grant out there, but I certainly don't have time to look for things that nobody notifies us about. I'm not a grant writer by trade. I was never really trained in grant writing. You know, I do have some concerns about whether we have the match for some of the grants. That's like one of my only the drawbacks, I think, of having a grant writer is whether we have enough in match. As far as addressing Ms. Dinsmore's comment about East Greenwich, their town manager has an executive assistant. I don't have that, and I fill a lot of other roles that many other town managers and administrators don't. The purchasing agent, I'm the website administrator, I do the social media. I mean, there's a lot, I wear a lot of hats that.
HR.
Yeah, HR, yeah, and there's a lot of things that I do that a lot of other managers and administrators have many other employees to do. So to take on, you know, any more in that regard would be difficult.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing more to add? I'll go to Jeff. So Jeff's the end, and then I'll go to Dan.
All right, so we do have a,
I'll go that way. Go ahead, Dan.
oh, do you want to go?
No, no,
It's
no.
fine, go ahead.
No, no, I want,
No.
Jeff, go first. Go ahead, buddy. You go first.
I'm just gonna say, I don't think, the grant writer, I just think that it's a lot of money. The 60K, I think we could do it for less. Because it's a contracted person, you could, like, it was already brought up, you could either pay them by the grant, you could pay them monthly, there's a lot of things that we could do, but I guess we haven't, you know, interviewed any or spoken to any yet to see how the pay scale goes, how you know, how we pay them, but I think that maybe 30K, and we could put the 30K somewhere else into roads or something like that, you know, but I just think that, don't want to pay them too much, obviously.
Yeah,
You know,
hear you.
and there's only so many grants out there. It's not, you don't want to pay for somebody to sit and look for grants that are not there, you know, so.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, okay, so let's stay on that grant writer topic for now. So we've had a lot of debate about this. And, you know, given the current situation with the federal government and everything that's going on nationally, the question was brought up, what's going to be available to go after? And so I think from a practical matter, if we allocate $60,000 for this position, so we haven't even come up with the, RFP to get consultants, contractors, whatever, to submit their, resume on what they're gonna do for us. So again, from a practical matter, if we allocate $60,000 and then we don't actually go forward with that position, what is the protocol for what we do with that money? Who then decides? Does it come back to the council and say, okay, you got 60,000, you didn't spend, what do you want to reallocate it? Because town is gonna vote on this budget, which is a bottom line budget. And do we go back, in 6 months from now and say, all right, we got 60,000, where do we want to put it? Is that how that works?
I mean,
Danielle,
it doesn't.
something that
no.
you, oh,
No, once you vote on it, the budget as it is, that's the budget. Next year, if you did not use the 60,000, then it will be put into unassigned.
It rolls
That's
over.
how it rolls into the unassigned.
I mean, it
So
doesn't
then
go
you
away,
could-
it just,
no,
it goes
it
into
doesn't go
fund
away,
balance,
yeah.
and then next year you could use that to fund.
anything more to add? All right,
For the grant writer, no.
All right,
Other
I'm gonna-
things, yes.
I'm gonna go, then I'll go back to you, because you did already speak
Yeah.
on the grant writer.
Okay.
I want to say, I've been a little on the fence on this. It was something I've wanted since before, I got elected initially in 2022. But now just seeing the way everything's going on, completely just, I am concerned with like the same thing Karen had said, and that some members of the public had said about setting them up for failure, because there's not gonna be as many grants out there, and we don't have a lot for a match, but I also just have wanted it for, needed it for so long. I've seen our community, just by being friendly with members of the Conservation Commission, missing out on opportunities. And we have a volunteer on that board who writes grants for a living. So it's just something that I think we need to try, as a trial. And if we don't do it, it'll end up in unassigned next year to either make it so we don't have to put as much into the fund balance, or we can pull it out towards roads if we're over the recommended amount. The $60,000, just to respond to what you had said, Mr. Dinsmore, maybe we could do it for less, but this number was pulled from the survey that we had asked Karen to send around, and it was kind of the average of what everyone was doing, so I feel like it's a fair amount. And again, maybe we'll spend less, because if they only apply for so many grants, because there are only a few out there, and we wouldn't be necessarily paying for all the work of the administration part of the grant. We'd only be paying for the searching part. So we could end up with a lot more unspent funds. With that, I think I'm done with the grant writer, so I'll go back to Jim.
Thank you. No, the thing I was just going to say was, the matching piece was also on a part of our conversation. And there's a lot of work that's happening right now on roads and work that's happening in recreation. And it'd be an opportunity to have that conversation with the grant writers. If we were to target at certain things that we already could count those towards the match, I think that would be really helpful. I mean, none of us would be sitting here in 6 months and saying, wow, we should give that $460,000 grant back that we just got, right? But none of us are fortune tellers. I like the idea of trying it to see, but the reason why I supported it as a trial approach as a contractor was because it gave us the opportunity to pull back if it wasn't something that was working. It's a calculated risk to find other revenue sources. And that's what the public has been asking us to get creative outside the box, whether it's, finding ways to offset the burden on the tax base. And I think that grant writing opportunities could be one way to do that. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but we don't know. That's just my thought on that.
All right,
I just-
go ahead, Mark.
I may chime in. I would just say this, I do think we need to try something. And if money is scarcer, all the more reason to have a professional looking for it. And not all the obvious places, but maybe some of the not so obvious places. And, hopefully we can do it for less. As Jeff said, we haven't interviewed anybody. We don't have a price scale. And if Ms. Dinsmore has people who can do it for less, hopefully she'll let them know this is an opportunity that they should submit. And we can find out, what do we get for whatever they're quoting, what do we get for what other people are quoting, and then we can make an informed decision about where we get the most bang for our buck. So I think, just because we put 60,000 aside doesn't mean we have to spend it all. But I think it's a reasonable figure to put aside, and then we'll see where we go once we get an RFP out there and people respond to it.
Sounds good. Counselor Madnick, you said you had something else you wanted to add, not grant writer, really?
Yeah,
Move on
I-
to the next thing.
Two items I want to discuss. The first one, I guess just as an overview, we have some decisions we have to make based on
Yeah.
some of the decisions we made at the last meeting, the executive session. So we've got contract with the police department, and there's going to be some extra expenses that we need to cover in this budget from that. And then there's also the settlement with the preserve, where we set aside $34,000 additional this year for legal services. So in my estimation, it looks like we have about $34,000 that we should discuss reallocating to potentially cover the added expenses for the police contract, and then potentially either putting that money into roads or addressing the salary wage contingency and the data that our administrator provided to us as well.
Yeah, is that the budget scenario that you had sent us? At least the OPED is?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I meant when we were gonna go to the spreadsheet. Sorry, I didn't or not recognize you. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just gonna say, I think I went through again, particularly the capital improvement projects, and I think there's money there that we can also reallocate. Particularly the municipal resiliency fund, we had allocated $100,000. So I did make an inquiry to Danielle about that. We can probably reduce that to 50 from 100. So that would give us 50,000 plus the 35,000 reduced legal expenses in light of the litigation not continuing. And remember last time we put extra money in the wage contingency already. And then there's one final capital improvement. There was allocated for the Beaver River Park invasive species elimination project, $10,000. That's now going to be funded through a grant, and the match for that grant is on the Heritage Trail capital improvement plan. So we don't need that $10,000 for Beaver River Park anymore. So, we've got between probably $135,000 to $145,000 there. If you add all those things up.
All right, which pages are you on for the?
795. All right, so we're gonna get.
Legal litigation is on 39.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant the capital improvement.
On the capital improvement on page 38 and 30.
38 and 30.
Culverts was on 30 and 38 is Beaver River.
Okay, that's the municipal resilience
It's-
one you had mentioned.
So we are in the page 79 of the PDF, which is page 38.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Beaver River MRP, which was basically to eliminate the invasives, which we're going to get funded through a grant.
You're on page 30, correct? Of the CIP?
He said 38.
38.
38 from.
So there's $10,000 there that we don't need to use there. And then the other one is what Dan was just referring to, page 30 of the CIP, which is page 71 of the PDF.
The road repair. Oh, the MRP
No, this is-
project.
this
MRP.
is-
It says road repairs on MRP. Sorry, I spoke too soon.
So this is
Um,
not repaving, this is the municipal resiliency projects, which are basically
Yeah.
replacing culverts. So I did ask what we thought the 100,000 we needed for. Because we did get a grant for some engineering on one of these. And the belief was that for this year, we probably only would need 50, not 100. So that's why I suggested we could take 50 from this, from this year's budget, which would still leave us with almost $300,000 in that
Okay.
account.
Okay, I have a quick question. Actually not related to the budget, related to our agenda and the procedure. Considering we have two two licenses, I guess this is a question for Attorney Zangari. Can I make a motion to move those licenses to now and continue the budget discussion after we let the business owners do that if they'd like?
Yes.
All right, he just smiled at me, so thank you. I did not know we were gonna be deep diving into this again, so my apologies for not doing that sooner. I'd like to make a motion to move item E12 to now in the agenda while retaining our rights to talk about the current agenda item. Oh, we already closed the public hearing, so we're good. Thank you for the second, Counselor Madnick. We'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. So, current on the agenda now is the holiday license for Wallaloom RV LLC. Can I have a motion for this?
Motion to approve the holiday license of Wallaloom RV LLC.
Second.
All right, any discussion on this? All right, Counselor Dinsmore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. All right, congratulations. You can stay if you'd like.
Good luck with your
Try not to
budget.
run.
Right, now the victualling license for Shaw's Lemonade LLC, DBA Dell's Lemonade.
Motion to approve the free license for Shaw's Lemonade LLC doing business as Dell's Lemonade.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any questions or council discussion? Seeing none, we'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. You're free to go.
Okay.
But you can stay if you'd like to. Thank you for your patience also. We're a chatty bunch, but it's good chat. I didn't mean that negatively. I'm sorry.
Point of
So,
information, Madam Chair,
sure,
would you like to also do some of the hiring as well?
sure, make a motion.
Do I need to make a motion to?
Move it up to now.
Okay, yeah. I'll make a motion to move the hiring of our summer camp director, agenda item F1 before we enter back into budget discussion.
Second.
Our motion, our second, we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. All right, so we have our applicant. Do you have anything you'd like to share, Karen?
Sure. I guess at this point, I don't need to describe the role of the summer camp director. I think we've exhausted that, but Kate and I interviewed applicants and we felt that Caitlin Kressler, who's in the back there waving,
Hello.
was the best fit for our program. She's got a master's in education. She's a first and second grade teacher in Fall River. She actually comes highly recommended by Morgan, our former camp director. She has worked in camp settings previously. She's also a teacher leader at her school. She's planned field trips, field days. She also has supervisory experience since she was a lead manager in a sales position. And so we know she understands how important the role is, and we think she'd be a great addition to the team. For the job posting, we're recommending $6,000 stipend for planning, as we discussed in coordination with Kate. Execution of the 5 weeks of camp, and then any follow-up that is required after it's over. And so obviously, given the time constraints, she'll probably have to get going with hiring an assistant director and counselors right away.
Awesome. Well, we got a motion. Anyway, sure, go ahead, Jim.
A motion to hire. Bear with me here.
It's the name's not on there.
Yeah.
Caitlin Kressler.
Caitlin Kressler. I was backing up so I could see it. A motion to hire Caitlin Kressler as the summer camp director at the stipend amount of $6,000.
All right, any council discussion or questions?
Yeah,
Sure, go ahead, Mark.
I thought the number was higher for the summer camp director.
Am I wrong? Danielle?
Just
That's
repeat
what
what
we
We actually have 5,400.
Okay, all
Okay.
right. I don't know
think we
why.
posted it at 6,000, yeah.
I had a different.
Sorry, he tried.
Fine with that, yeah. Give him the mic.
54.
Good wheels.
Are we keep it? or you-
Oh, wait, it's supposed to be 54?
Well, we posted it at 6.
then let's-
Yeah, we can't
It
change
is.
after we post it.
Yep.
All right,
We have to modify the budget.
so we'll go for our, I don't have a second yet. Did I get a second, guys?
Second.
Thank you. Any other council questions? All right, Counselor Dinsmore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes.
We don't have to pay.
Welcome to the party.
Fair mileage. Well, River to
No,
Richmond's a pretty.
No.
No.
Works. Thank you.
Maybe she lives down the street. All right, so we'll continue back to the budget. We were talking about, we had page 38, we could remove 10K, page 30 is 100, but we can reduce it down to 50. Awesome finds. Mark, did I cut you off? Did you have more you wanted to add
We got
or
90
subtract
Yeah, we got 94K so
or
far.
change?
No, so I have reducing the legal line by $35,000. Reallocating $50,000 from the municipal resiliency road projects. Taking the $50,000 that we have in the wage contingency. And then the Beaver River invasives project is $10,000. So if you took all of those, that's $145,000.
All right, town planner has a question or comment. Go ahead, Talia.
Tom Gillette, Town Planner. I just want to clarify the MRP item. So we do have funding to do the design, engineering, and permitting for one of the culverts. We do not yet have any funding set aside to actually construct the culvert. So once it has been designed, permitted, and engineered, we will then need to find a funding source to actually build it instead of just kind of letting that lay dormant while we try and figure out what we're going to do. So I think that it would make sense to retain money in that line item because we know that we will need to actually build that culvert. There's also another culvert that is being funded, the design, the engineering, and the permitting through a separate source that is being put forth and is really being monitored right now by the Woodpocketuck Watershed Association for the Hillsdale culvert. But that is also not including the construction of that culvert once it has been designed, permitted, and engineered. So the town would like to, and you may recollect when Chris Fox came here not that long ago to ask to have the ability to apply for MRP funding for that particular culvert. That would require a match. I spoke with a party at the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank earlier today. His name is Anthony Hebert. I cannot remember his specific title, but he is the person who's always reaching out to the municipalities whenever the MRP is available. MRP is Municipal Resilience Program. And he said that that would likely be, the application cycle would likely open this coming fall. So, I think that we should capitalize upon the previous grants that we've gotten for the engineering, design, and permitting by then actually having those projects come to fruition. So I had a little bit of a conversation with Danielle about that earlier today because she had received questions from the council about that particular item. So that's where that comes from. So, ultimately it's going to be the council's decision, but I thought that you would benefit from having some of that background information.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sure, go ahead, Jim.
Just a question on that, and
Yep.
sorry, Talia.
Don't worry.
before you would, engineering,
standing up.
design, permitting, do you see that as something that's gonna take the duration of this year and going into next year that potentially that culvert funding could be put into next year's budget? Because I don't think they do that work in the winter anyway. Like how long? Because you've said this,
So-
it takes a long time to do those things.
So in particular, the Hillsdale culvert, that, my understanding is that the design is exceeding, so they set different standards for like, okay, it's 30% complete, 60% complete, 100% complete. My understanding is that right now that design is more than 30% complete. So I think that that would be ripe for the actual MRP in the fall. The Carolina Newsnet culvert is, it's not impossible, but I think it would be less likely than the MRP. That it would be eligible for the MRP funding round because you're actually going to be voting on the agreement this evening. So that's starting later, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it couldn't come to fruition over the coming months if we really put the pedal to the metal.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. Yes, we have.
No, I would just say, you know, in response to Talia, I do appreciate that. And by making this reduction, we would still have about $300,000 in that account to do those things.
Anyone else have anything to add on this? Sure, go ahead, Jim.
Just a question, clarification. So, Madam Chair, is Councilor Reynolds proposing a reduction of the budget by the 145,000 based on the items he identified? Is that?
I don't know. I didn't tally them all up.
It
You wanna
is
share a tally?
roughly.
So the cost of the post-employment benefit, post-employment benefits for the police contract and the wage adjustments that were recommended, the total cost of those is $128,500. So I would think that we can take that much from those things that I've identified. And move it, apply it toward those two things. And the rest can either stay. We don't need to take we may not need to take 50 out of the municipal resilience. Maybe we just take 43,500. And we, you know, I don't know, we haven't gotten to it yet, but we did get a request from Wood River to increase their allocation, which would be $3,500 if the council was inclined to do that. But I think we should at least, and I would propose, just to keep things moving here, taking, I guess I'll put it in the form of a motion. I'll make a motion that we reduce the legal litigation line by $35,000. That we reduce the road repair MRP project in the SIP by $43,500. And that we take $50,000 from the wage contingency and use those monies, which is $128,500. My math is right, to fund the other post-employment benefit for the police contract in the amount of $20,000 and $108,500 toward the wage adjustments recommended by the administrator.
We have a total on that math.
I
Just,
think we need a second for discussion.
Thanks.
Thank you.
sorry, I should have done that, but I gotta have myself.
So you want to double check on the math?
Yeah, I guess I want to double check on the motion, so I make sure I wrote it down correctly, and then the math, and I just want to so there's two things. Double check the motion, the math, total, and then just to confirm which scenario Mark is talking about. We're talking about the increase in wages for all the salary and the OPEB $20,000 investment.
Yes.
So scenario 2.
All right.
Well,
I-
yeah, but we're paying for it different.
I wrote down the motion as to reduce legal by 35,000, MRP project by 43,500. 43,500.
That's page 3.
And
correct?
then, hold on, I want to finish what I'm saying. Thank you. Remove 50,000 from the wage contingency and then use 128,500 to fund post-employment benefits and the wage adjustments as recommended by our town administrator.
I think.
Did you write something?
Utilize 20,000.
No, that is.
Plus 108,500. Which equals 128,500.
Yeah.
So 128,500.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Can you read it again, please?
Fine. We're reducing legal by 35,000, MRP, culvert project by 43,500. We're moving from the wage contingency 50,000 to have 128,500 to fund post-employment benefits and the wage adjustments as recommended by our town administrator.
And how much is the waste adjustment? Sorry.
You have that? I'll put
The
it there, I got
amount
it
is-
around.
Round numbers, it's 108,000, but. And basically, we're just moving money to fund it without increasing the budget. So the budget stays the same, just where it's coming from.
So the recommendation from Karen was to, is that what I know we talked about before, the salaries increases? Okay. Thank you. Above the 3%, correct?
Yes.
Questions or for? I have another question for you, Talia, if you don't mind. I'm sorry.
Worry about it. That's what I'm here for.
I know we have funds in the MRP for the culverts. Is that going to be enough?
So it's a difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
Because until we actually have it designed and permitted, we're not going to know exactly how much it will cost to build. We can have some kind of vague understanding of what it might entail, but we're not going to have any specific number until that work is concluded, unfortunately.
No kind of estimate, like we are short, we're close enough. I just don't want to I don't want to have the project thrown away because we didn't put $50,000 into it.
Any number I would put out would be pure speculation.
Okay. Had to try. Thank you.
Of course.
I don't think it's gonna get thrown away. It just might not be timely. You just might have to wait another budget cycle.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Mark, I give you a lot of credit for doing this. This is really good work because we're really gonna value our staff members here and bring them up to an hourly rate that is commensurate with the work that they do. And I think, you know, we're gonna have $300,000 in there for the culvert project. So if we have to wait one more year, I guess cross our fingers that we don't have a massive flood that takes it out, but in that case, it's gonna be an emergency repair. So I think this is money well spent.
Yeah. I agree. I just want to make sure and learn more. I definitely want to make sure our staff is paid appropriately for the work we do. We've talked about that a lot during our budget workshops. But we do have a motion on the floor. Does anybody else have any questions or comments about the motion? You can sit down, I think. Who knows?
You can let me know.
We'll call you back up later. No. All right. So we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
No.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes. So does that cover the budget? Like, do we have anything else we want to discuss on it, or
Well,
is this over?
I just-
Sure, go ahead, Mark.
We have this $10,000 in the Beaver River invasives SIP. We could certainly, we don't need it. We can either just put it into the unassigned, or we can add it to the MRP, just to reduce that a little bit more.
You did mention wanting to talk about. Wood
Or,
River.
yeah, and or Wood River, portion to Wood River and a portion to the MRP. So that, I guess that's the one thing we haven't talked about.
What would you like to do?
I'd like to hear what everyone else wants to do.
All right, anybody have any comments on this? Sure.
Question. So I mean, the 3,500 is the question of, sorry, I'm way away from this. I
Yeah, way away from your
apologize.
microphone.
Sorry. So the question is the 10,000, the increase that was referenced by Director Cook from Wood River was 3,500. Now, just remind me, what was the request and what we're doing now? 1,500. So that's where the 3,500 is the difference of meeting that request. So that would, the remainder of that could be just taken. I mean, it doesn't have to be allocated somewhere. It could be taken out of the budget.
Yeah, we'll go into the unassigned balance.
Unassigned meaning we would still collect it and just not allocate it.
Right.
Or just not collect it.
What is suggesting?
Yeah, suggesting just take, I would be suggesting taking the 3,500 and allocating it to Wood River. And then just getting rid of the remainder. Not assigning it.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Wait, was that a motion?
I think that, yes, that would.
All right, so we have a motion to take the $10,000 from, it was Beaver River, correct? Sorry, not my microphone. And allocate 3,500 to Wood River and the rest to unassigned? Or,
To remove it from the budget. It was get rid of it.
oh, just remove it from the budget
Just
entirely?
make sure that that's what Mark understood when he said it.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
$500.
Okay.
Whatever you want.
So this 7,500 wouldn't lower anybody's tax rate, anything, no, so we may as well put it somewhere, in my opinion.
Well,
Like,
we-
we put
Just
it
put
in
it, just put
roads,
it in the
put it-
unassigned fund balance. Just put it in the fund balance.
Put it toward the roads,
Put it in the roads.
Okay.
I will
the shovel of asphalt.
I will amend my motion to then put the remainder into roads.
Thank you.
Do you amend your second?
Yes, I amend my second.
All right, perfect. Thank you for bringing up Wood River. They ask for, I mean, they do receive the same amount every year at 1,500. They always ask for more each year. They're a great community partner, and I know that $3,500 isn't going to make or break their services, but if it's a little portion that we can play for our community, especially since we're reducing it from somewhere else, happy to do it this year. And roads is another passion project of mine, or all of us, I should say. Go ahead, Jim.
Sorry, I just forgot to mention, I did have the opportunity to go and visit Wood River Health about 2 months ago. And I think I didn't have a concept of the population they were serving and the quality of care, the amazing facility it is. So it's really, it's a great resource to our community. And I think there's multiple funding cuts happening all around. I think that we can help in a small way to retain those services. It's a great thing. So if you haven't gone there, go and check it out.
I second that, because I've also had a tour. It's amazing. Anybody else?
Can we just read back the motion?
Sure. Erin, do you want to read what you have?
Or if they're both amending and we're gonna do it
I know we didn't follow the
It's
rules.
to take 10,000 from the Beaver River MR
Invasive.
invasive,
Yeah.
sorry. And allocate 3,500 back to Wood River Health Services and put the remainder of 7,500 into road.
Actually, it's 65. I did my math wrong, 65.
Jeff and I had the same reaction to that.
Math major.
All right, so we had our motion and we had our second. Any further council discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Adnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes. Does that now settle our budget? We have a budget. We're gonna, Move
We have to make a
forward.
motion to approve it.
well, first I want to make sure that no other counselors have any discussion, and then I'm definitely gonna go into making sure we make that motion. So, Erin, you have something you'd like to add?
No, I don't know if you're taking any other.
We already did the public hearing on the
Double
budget,
check.
Madam Chair.
but we did add a lot. I'm actually kind of debating. What do you think? Yes, Dan?
One thing I just wanted to add, I don't think it was actually said explicitly. When we talk about the other category, obviously that was a question I had. I know that Jeff had the same one when we started out, but the other category, while you were accurate in what you said, is there's details of it here. The majority of it is the capital improvement projects. So that's what the other category is. We just don't have that broken down by a separate line item department in our budget. You just have to go to that department's breakdown in the budget to see where that money's going. So that was one of the first questions I had when I saw the budget, like, what's other? And then you gotta go down there and you gotta break it out. There's a little more work involved in looking at that department's line item than the other one, so I just want to clarify that for everyone.
Thank you.
That would have been helpful for a freshman town council. For that to be labeled a little bit better. 'Cause I was like, what is this? Do like, looking at everything and couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
I think we need a motion to approve the budget, so motion to approve the budget.
Second.
Thank you. So I was looking at the agenda item here for what's next.
Where is it?
You can get any more specific than that?
That's what I was looking at the agenda to see if we had to be. Do we have to include any dollar amount on that? Do you guys know? Town solicitor?
You could make it, you're approving the budget with the amendments that you've just voted on, right?
I
Is that what- yeah.
Send my second. Allow him to modify his.
We'll just amend the motion to include the amendments that we just made and agreed to as a council.
But
All right. So have our motion to approve the budget. We have our second. We've discussed it a lot, so I'm gonna go straight to our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
No,
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. So now we have the approval of the ballot question for the financial referendum. This motion may need to be a little more specific. Do we have to include the amount?
If I may.
Yes.
So this is gonna be our third ballot referendum. We previously had a financial town meeting. And our ballots are been a little different each year. I can, if I may, explain each ballot question, what they were, and some feedback we've received from the voters who attend the all-day referendum. So in 2023, this was our first ballot. The explanation to the voter was to approve the proposed budget, a vote yes, and to reject the budget, it's a vote no. And it shall the proposed budget and the total amount of 29,445,115, including 21,684,758 for the Charahoe Regional School District budget approved by the voters on April 4th, 2023, and 77,60357 for municipal expenses be approved. That was the first question. And the feedback on election day was that there were some people that were confused because they had already voted to pass the budget. And then there were some people confused that they thought that the municipal budget was 29 million. And then there was other people that were excited because they got a second bite at the apple to reject the school budget. And so you cannot educate voters in the polling location, and all we can do is put out way beyond the things. They go, well, I don't know. And I said, unfortunately, we can't educate you. So that was in 2023. So in 2024, the ballot was simplified based on some of those concerns, and it was explanations to approve the proposed budget, a vote yes, or to reject the proposed budget, a vote no. And it said, shall the municipal budget for fiscal year 24-25 in the total amount of 29,853,772 be approved? Well, again, now we're back to that it's 29 million of a municipal budget. It's not 29 million of a municipal budget. It's allocating Charahoe's that was already previously voted on. And so it was very confusing to voters because they thought we were at a $7-8 million budget, and now they're being asked to vote on 29 million. So again, back to the same thing. We can't educate in polls. So that was something of concern. I will also like to preference ballots have to have a date on them. So when it'd be really great to just do a yes, no ballot, and we could reuse them from year to year, however the date's on them. So that's a moot point. Charahoe has their ballot in, that's pursuant to their charge, and it says, shall the Charahoe Regional School District annual budget for the school year as adopted by the Regional School Committee be approved? Very simple, it's the same one every year. And so given on that premise, you may want to look at something that is similar to that, because you can't go, we vote on a bottom line budget where Charahoe's already included in our portion. They've already voted on it. We already have it built into the budget. And so something similar would be, shall the Richmond municipal budget for fiscal year 25-26 as adopted by the town council be approved? may limit some. However, you know, there's concern on details, so I guess it's the pleasure of the council, but I just wanted to point out the different ballots we've had and the feedback we received. And this will be the third election we've had, so it's not like
Yeah.
we have a whole lot of data.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that feedback. My opinion would be to go for the simple one, similar to the school committee, just like shall the budget adopted by the Richmond Town Council be approved? Does anybody else have any thoughts looking on that?
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Me too.
Any- Jim, Mark, what do you guys think?
I think that's fine. I agree with eliminating the school committee, the school budget amount. You know, the only detail I would add potentially, but I'm fine with just saying shall it, you know, the budget that was approved by the town council be approved. You could put the amount of the municipal budget in. But,
That's a good idea.
you know, shall the municipal budget approved by the Richmond Town Council in the amount of $8,363,582. But either or.
Can we do that if it's partial? Like if, could we, because it seems like that's our bottom line, but it's not the bottom line.
I think you could, because the way Counselor Reynolds put it, he said the
Okay.
municipal portion of the budget. Obviously, the school committee portion's already been approved.
Okay. You have a thought, Jim?
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud. I think, you know, the simplification makes sense so that it's not confusing, but it should have information that's important to the voter. But I think, you know, I think people who have been paying attention certainly are aware of this process, but there's a lot of voters who may not be aware of the work that we've been doing to try to bring a balanced budget. But again, I don't want to craft it in a way that is, you know, misleading. But if you walk in there and you haven't been part of this at all and you see 8 million, you're like, oh, not that, right? You don't know that actually is no increase, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but I guess I think I would defer to Aaron, not to put you on the spot, but I would defer to your perspective, seeing that you've managed a lot more of these elections than I have. So.
So yes, so the concern, there's a lot of concern, and you know, we voted a lot in Richmond last year. So especially when we have new residents that move in that aren't familiar, that were part of a regional school district, there is a education piece constantly when we get to this point in the budget from our office, because people assume that they don't understand a regional school budget. In other towns that aren't regionalized, it would be a municipal budget bottom line. It would be, you know, they would be coming to the town council just like every other department came, and the council would approve the school committee's budget. However, we're regionalized, so that doesn't happen. And because there is about 2 months in between the votes, there is that education piece that they think that people are given another opportunity. So the first round was done the first question was done certainly to try and educate that, but it was missed. I'll be honest, it was a missed thing. So because Charter Host it's been the same one. They've been doing an all-day referendum far longer than we have. I think it works. I know that it's really great to pull out the municipal portion comparable to the town. I mean, especially when you're talking 29 million for the school, and what are we at, 8.3 for the town. So then there's an education piece in that, but a total line number does not work at all. That simply does not work. That did not work at all last year. So, but I really think it's a policy decision as far as, you know, what you want to see on that. Certainly, the simpler the language, I think, is better for voters. I think it's, you know, it causes for less issues. We also have a print vendor that is not in the state anymore. So our ballots are being printed from New Jersey. This will be the second time we've worked with them. We have to use what the Board of Elections has for a vendor. So that is why I'm so glad that we're at this point tonight, because if we waited till the next meeting, we only had till 10 a.m. the following morning to get our ballots ordered. Else that we wouldn't even have ballots. So, I think I would be leaning more towards the simplicity. I do like maybe explaining and having the transparency portion on that number. But like you said, there's no information other than that, like it doesn't say that should the level tax rate Richmond municipal budget for fiscal year 25-26 be approved at this amount. I mean, you could get creative in that. I mean, but the more detail you go in,
Yeah.
could go the opposite as well.
Go ahead, Karen.
I think technically the school is a part of our budget, so to some degree, I think it's almost misleading just to put the municipal number in there. Personally, I think it's better to just have a yes, no, like Erin suggested for Charahoe.
Yeah, wait. What do you mean, yes? no,
Rather
for
than
Charahoe?
just.
Because
rather
Charahoe
than-
already did their vote.
Yes, no, like Chara.
Oh,
Like-
yes, no,
like
like
Charahoe.
Charahoe. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I
Sorry.
misheard you, I think. Yes, that's actually what I wrote down to put into a motion, if we're ready. I was gonna say, shall the municipal budget approved by the Richmond Town Council be approved? Boom, yes, no. When it comes to the municipal budget, I think a lot of the education, part of it comes from home. You know, when you can read it, digest it, the bottom line number is important to you, you can see it. The mill rate's important to you, you can see it, so
We'll be putting it on the new sign.
you'll be putting it on the new sign, can't wait. And everywhere else you usually put it as well.
Right?
So I'll put that into a motion. Motion to approve the ballot question for the financial referendum to be, shall the municipal budget approved by the Richmond Town Council be approved?
Second.
All right, so we got a motion second. Any further council discussion?
Do you want to put the fiscal year in it?
Yeah. you
Well,
should.
the date's at the top anyway, right?
It is, I just,
All right,
What's the number? Is there a number being shown or no?
no. Much like our school committee. So shall the municipal budget for the year? Is that what you're suggesting?
Fiscal year.
fiscal year.
Yeah,
25, 26. Approved by the Richmond Town Council be approved. And then the explanation would be the same on every ballot, pretty much. A vote
Alright.
yes would be to approve, a vote no would be to reject.
all right, well then,
Just one more quick, did you say you had, what does the school committee want to say this year?
Shall the Charahoe Regional School District annual budget for the school year as adopted by the Regional School Committee be approved?
Oh,
Yes.
so we're following the same examples then.
we are, and they don't have the year in there.
They don't, they just say
Alright.
for the school year as adopted.
Okay,
Sure.
and then because it's in their act, you know, if they had the fiscal year in there, it would just get confusing. So I think adding that was fine. So I'll amend my motion to say, motion to approve the ballot question for the financial referendum to be, shall the municipal budget for the fiscal year 25-26 be approved by the Richmond Town Council be approved? Approves it. There are a lot of scribbles here. Was that clear enough? Because if not, I'll say it again because I want it to be clear.
How about, you can get rid of one, shall the Richmond municipal budget fiscal year 25-26 as adopted by the Richmond Town Council be approved?
Yeah.
There you go. Second.
All right, so we got our motion. We got our second. Any further council discussion on this? All right, we'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. I'm so excited that we finished our budget discussions. We already covered licenses and new hires, so we'll go on to our appointments and resignations. We'll start with discussion consideration of Leah, Arsenal request for appointment to the Wellness Committee. Is
Motion.
she online or am I missing her here?
Richmond resident, I don't know if it's Leah, but
You don't know if she's online? All right, then we will have to hold off till the next one. So do a motion to move this to our May 20th meeting.
Okay.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any council discussion? Counselor Dinsmore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes. How about Isaac Reed? Is he here? All right, thank you for hanging in. Can we have our motion so that we can discuss it?
Motion to appoint Isaac Reed to the Wellness Committee with term expiring November 30th, 2025.
Second.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Isaac. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hello, I'm Isaac Reed, currently working for the Rhode Island Food Policy Council, working at sustainable food policy as well as environmental policy around compost. So why would I be interested in the Wellness Committee? I'm also a certified yoga instructor. I started my career teaching children how to garden and cook. I am very much invested in holistic wellness. As I recently moved to Richmond and realized I'm one of probably like 20 people in their 20s in this town. There is not much to do. So when I saw there was an opening on the Wellness Committee, I was kind of pushed to apply. And then I was really pushed when I was in Stop and Shop, and I drive a taller car. So getting out, I've seen in at least 3 or 4 cars. I think you guys call them nips. I call them shooters.
Oh, yeah.
Empty shooters inside of people's cars, which my cousin is a police officer and was almost shot in the head by a domestic dispute fueled by alcohol. And so I really know the importance of taking care of our citizens in rural communities, and I would really like to do that.
Awesome. I appreciate you stepping up and sharing that about yourself. I also don't like nips. I organized a few cleanups a couple years ago, trying to advocate for it. Had like, I don't know, countless numbers pass through my house going to somebody in South Kingstown who brought them all to the State House to advocate for that. So I appreciate that, as well as composting and everything here. So any council questions?
The only thing I say is we gotta talk about composting. I saw it in the communication, but
We'll
that's,
be back
that was on
later.
one of my initiatives for council, so we'll chat.
All right, so we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes.
Thanks.
Welcome to the party.
You have 3 wellness committee here, your colleagues.
Discussion and consideration of Kevin Stacy's resignation from the planning board.
Motion to accept Kevin M. Stacy's resignation from the planning board with regret.
Second.
All right, so we have our motion and our second. Any council discussion? Sure, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I just would like to say that I really appreciated Kevin's letter to us. I thought it was, you know, certainly heartfelt. He appreciated the work he had done and the work with council. So I thank him for taking the time to pen that resignation. Sometimes we just get a sentence. That was
Yeah.
really a nice letter.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. All right, so we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. All right. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they'd like to pull? I do. I have 1F. Is yours also 1F? Or you got something else?
1E.
All right, 1E. Anybody else have anything they want to pull?
Sorry, Mark.
Motion to approve the remainder.
Second.
All right, we got our motion and our second. We'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. All right, E's before F. So what would you like to discuss?
Okay, let me just get to it on the agenda. One moment. All right, on page 6. Hold on, it didn't jump to it. One moment. Hold on. My computer is not cooperating right now. No, I'll get to it.
Mine is open if you want this.
Mark just offered.
Oh, okay,
Thank you.
sorry.
Hold on.
I also have one.
All right, okay, page 6, here we go. Let's do it. The second motion for the EMA director on page 6. It says, to amend the previous motion to present the hazard mitigation report at the May 20th council meeting. we didn't request that the HMR HMP report be provided May 20th. We asked that at May 20th, the town admin and the email director provide us with a date on when they can provide the report. So that's the difference in that motion.
I remember that
The
report
date
for
per
report.
date.
Yeah,
Yep.
date per date.
Is that clear? Okay, cool.
Awesome. So I had asked, oh, I guess we can do a motion together for the two after. We can say as amended for both. I had April 9th. I had a little bit here, so on page 2, after the second motion, I'd like to add Counselor Wilcox suggested that council allocate more funds towards roads and playgrounds, and the council changed the budget to reflect option A as presented at the prior meeting, which would keep the tax rate the same. Just because after we had our discussion, I had mentioned it, and I noticed that none of my comments from our discussion that evening was included. It was, so I just wanted some of my comments to be included within the minutes because that's what people will go to over a long video of the night we had.
Restate that.
Sure, I can email it to you later as well. Counselor Wilcox suggested the council allocate more funds towards roads and playgrounds, and the council changed the budget to reflect option A as presented at the prior meeting, which would keep the tax rate the same. The other suggestion I was gonna have, on the second line where it reads discussion ensued on recreation funding, I was hoping we could add a little bit more. I wanted to add, including the comment from the public regarding Richmond Elementary Playground and options to partially assist the school if they exhaust all other options. With that being such a hot topic, I just feel like it should be noted that we addressed those concerns.
On page 3.
Yes.
Recreation facility funding.
Yes, it was on the second line. I wrote that in my notes. I didn't actually.
It says discussion ensued on recreation facility funding.
Yes, and then say including the comment from the public. So it would say discussion ensued on recreation funding, including the comment from the public regarding elementary playground and options to partially assist the school if they exhaust all other options. I didn't want it to read as if we ignored that request.
Okay, the exhaust more options may lead to maybe a consensus that allocations would go, so.
You're right.
But
That
so
part can be
just
removed.
for some background on minutes. So while I'm doing all of this, I don't always go back and rewatch the 5 hours. A lot of this is taken off the notes as I'm moving people in and out of the room. On that, so if we add in statements, I do go back to check them. Unless council is all clear on the additions or amendments, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect you to take notes word for word with everything else you do. It wasn't at all critical of your minutes.
No,
It
no,
was
what I was
okay.
just saying is that sometimes I summarize, and it's not meant to omit things, it's just meant,
Yeah.
it's the notes that was taken at the time.
Yeah, if we have a council consensus, if anybody doesn't want to include either of those, I'm happy to talk about it. All right, hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the April 1st and April 9th meeting minutes as amended.
Second.
All right, we'll go for our roll call vote.
Hold on.
Yep,
I still have 2 items to discuss.
on the April 9th minutes or another one?
Yeah, H1F. Yes.
Wait,
April 9th,
H1F?
Yeah, that's it.
Which is April 9th.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What do you got on?
Yeah, these are really quick. Page 1, we spelled Dave Bengston's name incorrectly. It should be Bengtson. And then on page 2, Dave Brennan's name needs a second N in the middle. That's it.
I'm sorry,
My apologies. It's very simple.
sorry, what was the second name?
Yeah.
Thea.
Brennan.
Thea.
At the top of page.
Yeah.
All right, hearing nothing else, we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Wilcox, yes. All right, are we now on to public forum? Sorry, going up here. The purpose of public forum is to give members of the public an opportunity to address the town council about items not on the agenda. We ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. You'll have one opportunity to address the council during public forum. This is out of courtesy for others who wish to speak to ensure we have equal time for all. There will be a timer which will go off when your 3 minutes are up, so you know when to finish. If you need more time, we welcome you to submit your comments in writing to the town clerk to be included as a part of the record in the communication section of the agenda. All comments should be directed to the president and not any other person present. With that, I saw Talia's hand first, and then we'll go for, oh my God, Joyce, and then we'll go for Bob. Sound good?
Polly Gillette, town planner. It's purely for informational purposes. On April 25th, the state put forth their draft housing plan, which is called Housing 2030. They are accepting public comments on it until May 23rd, 2025. The link to post comments and a link to the actual draft will be included on the planning board agenda. So if anyone would like to find that information, that's where you can find it. You can also find it on the website. But this is going to be the opportunity that the public will have to opine on this plan, which will guide how the state regulates and makes decisions in relation to housing. So it's very important that people voice their opinions in either direction. Read the plan. It's about 70 some odd pages, I think, about that. Just wanted to let as many people know about it as possible.
Thank you.
What's the deadline for comment date again? Kelly? May what?
May 23rd, 2025.
Joyce, you can go ahead. Please state your full name for the record, though.
Joyce Flanagan, Richmond. I have just a few words about the meeting on April 29th. And I only wish that a lot of people who were here last week were here tonight, but they're not. So for the record, a week ago tonight, I was here in this room for a very lengthy meeting that included an agenda item related to current and future motocross events. Councilor Madnick presented some data he had compiled relative to motor vehicle racing regulations in other nearby states. This data was intended as a starting point for the town council to discuss the possibility of regulation. To say that his research sparked a strong public pushback is an understatement. So I left the meeting wondering how this agenda item became such a hot issue. And after some thought, I believe it was misunderstood. In a nutshell, regulations are not punishments. Perhaps some of us have forgotten that we currently live with many regulations, many of which we take for granted. For example, the state regulates hunting by determining which seasons and what type of weapon can be used. And these regulations govern hunting on both public and private land. The building of a house, garage, or other structure requires a building permit, an electrical permit, and a plumbing permit. Every 2 years, we have our vehicles inspected. Every year, we renew the registrations for our trucks and automobiles. And motor vehicle liability insurance is mandatory. We have speed limits. Recreational marijuana sales are regulated. Mortgage brokers require that your well water be potable. So here's something for everyone to remember. A few years ago, the town of Richmond, not unlike other municipalities in Rhode Island, was caught off guard when the solar industry came to town. Richmond scrambled to draft and pass ordinances that regulated solar. But until these ordinances were agreed upon, we lost acres of land to solar. Trees were cut, land was cleared, boulders were crushed, scenic vistas were destroyed. Whether you love or hate solar, at least now it's regulated.
So now is the time to remember that regulations are for the good of all members of the community. We are a community of people living here in Richmond. We share the land, the water, and the air we breathe. We should be united by a concern for the common good. Discussing, developing, adopting, and implementing local regulations is a process. And we are watching our current town council as they move through that process. And to that end, we must be open to regulations that ensure the health and safety of everyone in the community. I applaud this town council for taking a proactive approach. And I thank you. I thank the town council, all the members of the town council who are working on these matters that affect all of us.
Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. Mr. Sayer, you had something you'd like to say? But do still state your name for the record.
Call me yet?
Who's that guy?
Bob Sayer, Richmond. I'm gonna try to do this in 3 minutes. If not, I printed it out. So we'll be there. My discussion is on the MX thing, and I would like my neighbor, I wish that they were here. So here's what I've got. After watching the town council discussion about the MX facility on April 29th, I have to present my opinion as to the whole evening's events that were very disappointing to me, from a moral perspective. The irony of the whole discussion and preceding events of the MX supporters is that it could have been prevented if Mr. Carlson's last comments of the night had been discussed with the council before the angry protests that voiced their displeasure of Councilor Madnick and Solicitor Zangari. The name calling and anger towards Councilor Madnick was uncalled for and should have been an embarrassment to those involved, especially since it was done in front of young children. What doesn't make sense to me is that Councilor Madnick has been an advocate for the facility's rights to operate in a flex zone from the time he was on the planning board through the finalization with the town council. Prior to that, Mr. Carlson was operating the MX facility without the rights under the zoning laws of the town. While I admit that I don't know all of the discussions that went on because I am not on either committee, I do attend most of the meetings on both groups. I am the only spectator at most of the planning board meetings and can tell you that Dan Madnick is greatly missed as his role of vice chair of the planning board, but is a greater asset as a town councilor. Town of Richmond is lucky to have him. Solicitor Zangari is also a huge asset and a welcome replacement to represent our town. During the preceding event, the crowd was calling for the dismissal of Solicitor Zangari and calling out Dan Madnick as a coward, which couldn't be further from the truth, and in my opinion, a cowardly act by those involved. Having said that, the group should have been offering an apology to Councilor Madnick. He is on your side. There were a lot of mistruths during the meeting that reminded me of my career as a union representative prior to my retirement 3 years ago. I can't tell you the many times how some angry Teamsters got in my face because they read one line in the contract that they thought backed their argument. When they were asked to read the rest of the paragraph, it made the argument a moot point. My perspective on this issue with the MX group is that the town gave Mr. Carlson the right to operate his MX facility in the flex zoned area with which his property exists. This is not under any debate. The question is whether the town should or should not be involved in the regulations of the facility. As was the subject of scrutiny by some participants at the meeting, I can see their point of view, considering the fact that they admitted to signing a waiver upon entering the private property, relieving the town's responsibility in case of injury or worse. To that point, Mr. Carlson stated that if he was to get sued, he would file bankruptcy, and it was already in the works. A question to be considered by the town is this a business or a club? If it's a business, I would think that as long as any event held within the confines of Mr. Carlson's private property, the town would bear no responsibility for any liabilities. If the group wanted to hold an invitational event that spilled out onto town property or roadways, they would have to apply for a special use or event permit, where they would have to show proof of insurance for the duration of the event. Whatever the council decides to do, I would think that they would want to protect taxpayers by having a copy of the waiver filed in the town records. Mr. Carlson is not proving to the town that he is showing responsibility if he operates a business without insurance. Therefore, the question remains, is it a business or a club? If it is a club and everyone in the club is signing a waiver, they are claiming that they are self-insured. For the record, I have owned 5 motorcycles in my life. The first vehicle that I owned was a motorcycle. I used to attend stock car races back in my younger days too. I'm not against anything that the MX facility is doing now, that the zoning issue was rectified, championed by Councilor Madnick and the hard work of the planning board and town council. When the group accused Dan of collecting regulations from other entities to push regulations retroactively against the MX facility, they were the ones putting the cart before the horse, as Sean, I think his name was Moran, had said as the first speaker on their behalf. Dan was just gathering information as to how facilities in other states regulated the events. He did all that research on behalf of everyone in case of the interest of promoting racing in Richmond. There was never any ill intent on his part to hurt the group. The testimony by Gary Parker and Chris Kona was very informative, and I have to agree with both men if the council decides to enter in drafting a resolution. My opinion is a little different, and I believe that we should protect the town and all its entities by getting it in writing that the MX Group bears all responsibility for anything that occurs on their private property.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Parker. Oh, we got a copy too. Can't reach it.
Sorry, I went over.
Oh, so you did hear the timer. I was like, I couldn't get a word in.
My deaf ear.
Gary Parker, Richmond, Madam President. Yeah, I do believe that as a community, we pulled a rabbit out of a hat last week. Hats off to the entire town council staff, Councilor Zangari. Hats off to the residents and hats off to the chief of police and his department. It really, watching that and just saying, wow, this is where we have our strength. You know, when I always refer to like the Revolutionary period, but when John Adams basically said the reason we were going to beat the British is because of our town councils, schools, religion, and basically our militia. This is what we've got. This is what you've preserved. So thank you for keeping. Thank you for keeping it a stewardship of that. From another perspective, I do know that there's a bill on the House, in the House and the Senate regarding to Rhode Island assault weapons ban. Several, and I know if I get cross-threaded, I'll be quiet immediately. But I know it's on our agenda for later on. We have resolutions from other towns. I did draft though a potential. Did a little homework. Always willing, as just your ex officio staff officers. I did draft a resolution. If I can email that to Madam Town Clerk, but I know that these hearings are coming up rather rapidly. And just to the extent that it can be vetted and discussed by the town council, that would be most grateful of that. Knowing that there are different viewpoints on this very serious. Also, as so, if I may shift gears really quickly from the Economic Development Commission, we have just publicly announced we have 2 open seats, and so we would love to have more participation there. I figured if people are watching this, it might get the word out a little bit better. And we have a Facebook page now. So that's all I have, Madam President. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Who's the chair of the ADC now?
Myself, sir.
Oh.
Congratulations. I didn't know there was a shift.
Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah.
No, thank you. Anybody else? Anything they'd like to say? Anybody online?
Back from work and online.
Yeah, we should. Do we have to do a motion to reconsider moving it to the next agenda and then do all those steps?
You could make a motion, putting it back on tonight's agenda.
All right. So we'll,
I'll make a motion to put the discussion and consideration of Leah Arsenal's request for appointment to the Wellness Committee back on the agenda for immediate consideration.
thank you. We got our motion, our second. We'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Madnick?
Yes.
O'Shannell?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes. All right, so could we have a motion to approve and then we'll discuss?
Motion to approve Leah Arsenault to the Wellness Committee, term expiring November 30, 2025.
Second.
All right, so we have our motion and our second. Hi, Ms. Arsenal, would you like to say hello? And then we'll see if anybody has any questions.
Hello, it's Leah.
It's optional if you want to share anything, but does anybody have any questions for Ms. Arsenal?
No.
All right, hearing none, thank you for coming to our meeting to get appointed, and thank you for volunteering for our wellness committee.
Of
They've done
course, I
great.
apologize for being late. I worked till 7 tonight, so sorry.
Oh, no, no worries. Glad you could make it. Glad you could make it. So with that, we'll go for our roll call vote. Matthew Dinsmore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Madnick?
Yes.
Palmigano?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes. Welcome to the party. Thank you for volunteering.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leah.
So after public forum, we're on to reports. Take it away, Karen.
I don't know how much detail you want on these first three items. They were obviously linked. The first item is a request for approval of a contract with Rhode Island Resource Recovery for solid waste and recycling. It's our annual agreement we sign every year.
Yeah. I did have a look at that, just based off our current discussions, that we've all had concerns with. And I noticed the contract did not mark the page, but related to rejection of loads, it says that they will normally identify specific issue in the load, take pictures of the rejected load, and let us know within 24 hours of delivery. Have you guys ever seen that actually happen?
Have you ever got notification within 24 hours of a rejected load?
No.
Yeah.
I am glad we asked. I saw a couple counselors and not along with me, like I was gonna ask that too. So, good to know it doesn't happen, but seeing it here, if we get a rejected load next time, we could say,
You didn't notify.
you didn't notify within 20, it says normally, which I wonder if we could ask them to remove, or if this is just a standard contract. That might be a bigger battle.
Yeah.
But we at least know it's there, so we can say, like, if this is something you normally do, and we only have 3 rejected loads and you're 0 for 3, how can you say it's normal? Anyway, Jim, do you have something you'd like to add? I'm sorry, what was that, Carrie?
It's happening all over the towns.
It's happening in other towns too.
I'm glad you brought that up because, yeah, the generally applies to the time within which they will notify, generally within 24 hours. It doesn't say they generally notify you. It says the corporation will notify the municipality electronically by email of any rejected loads. And this goes back into that fine we're receiving. I'm digging into this, not to make a book out of this one thing, but it references that rejection process, which we don't get an email for. And then it says rejected loads will be the charge assessed for any load municipality recycle is rejected, requiring reloading. The tonnage associated with the rejected load will be charged to the municipality at its applicable MSW rate applied to municipality, and references section 3. So you have to go to section 3 to figure out what the rejection load. It talks about equipment use fee. And then when you find out what equipment use fee is, it means a fee assessed for the customer when assistance from corporation is needed. So this could include loaders, bulldozers, roll-off containers, or tow lines. So essentially, the fine that you're getting without being informed of why is for them having to use a bulldozer to move your trash, because when you go to what couldn't be recyclable, somebody threw away a peanut butter jar that has peanut butter in it. Okay, so this is craziness. So I'm sorry, and when you read through it, like I'd have to take a class on recycling. There's a piece here that talks about paper and cardboard, and what is not acceptable is wet cardboard. I don't know if you've got the thing covered today, but all of our cardboard's wet. So what are they they're gonna fine us because it rained? Like, it's ridiculous. Sorry.
You're gonna bag it in the trash bag and throw it.
Well, yeah, it's not gonna happen, right? It's not gonna happen. So the whole thing is yeah, sorry.
They do have webinars every once in a while. If you follow them on Instagram or Facebook, they make posts that are educational. Our Conservation Commission has held a seminar in the fire station down the road here to educate people. And I already knew you couldn't recycle wet cardboard. I thought I was like doing it all right. I know you can't put peanut butter in your jar because it takes a lot to wash it out. And I still learned a lot at that event. Like, there's always something new. My biggest pet peeve is when my coworkers would put their frozen food containers in the recycling bin. No, it's not recyclable. but I could talk about recycling all day. and
I
I could
want to
make
start
fun of
quizzing
it.
you guys. I really want. Glass, broken, yes or no?
No.
Yes, you can. It's just not advised. So again. So, sorry, I think this is that issue that comes back to us being, like, we're getting, at least send us a photo and tell us why we're getting fined. And then we have that number, but that part of the process isn't happening. So I don't know if you can let them know that.
Yeah.
Or make sure that we get that. And each time we get a fine, I'd love to see the picture.
Yeah,
Yeah, awesome, because it's, just adds up.
it would be good for educational purposes for like the Concom or whoever to see like our town is usually getting a fine for the same reason. Anybody else have anything they want to add?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I have a question. So we talked about this a little while ago at one of the meetings, discussing the municipal leaf and yard debris sharing policy and composting. Are we, and maybe this is outside the bounds of this discussion, so you let me know if this is too far. Since it's in the contract, are we starting that process with them?
We are. Yeah, I don't know if you want to elaborate at all on the.
Because there's a lot of stipulations in there and there's.
As long as it's for like informational purposes only, like we can add stuff to the agenda. But I mean, knowing that it's there, was your question and I answered the
It's in the
question.
contract, yeah.
Right, but it wasn't on the agenda. So,
No, it's in the contract.
right, no, I understand what you're saying, but attachments are not agenda, they're attachments.
Contracts on the agenda.
Right, it is, so if we're talking about the contract, that's fine, he asked a question, I'm answering it. I just wanted for informational purposes only, you asked a question, I'm answering it. Go ahead.
Yes, that's been approved because we found out that we don't need the permit from them composting back to them. We're gonna get 2 dumpsters, which we gotta get 2 new dumpsters for that. And then we can compost and they'll take it back, so there's no fee, so it's just a matter of getting the dumpsters and setting up the time. Pretty basic.
Awesome, thank you.
And that's not much, that's all there is to it. But getting the dumpsters and the time and figuring out what we're gonna do.
We're gonna advertise that to residents so they can put their yard debris in it and then.
They will, but you still gotta come up with who's gonna set the prices of that. It's not gonna be trunks, it's gonna be tree limbs 3 inches and below leaves. With the leaf bags, you can use that recycle. But it's only gonna be 3 inches below, but the pricing, I don't know how they're gonna set pricing.
Yeah, that's something we'll
That's
have to
something,
decide
yeah.
later, that would have to be properly noticed, because we're talking about a contract, not what town's gonna charge for something, but I do appreciate that update on
Yep.
and answering that question.
Our ordinance does spell out the price of
Okay.
mattresses, refrigerators, like certain items, so it would probably have to be added.
For sure.
Talking about making compost, is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Compost, okay.
Any other council questions?
On this one itself or any other?
Yeah, I guess you kind of put A, B, and C all together. Yeah, do you have a question on another one, A, B, or C?
But yeah, how did we find out about the grants, the climate resilience, and who wrote it?
This was, Save the Bay wrote this, right, Talia? Yeah, Save the Bay, had someone reach out to us, and I think that's where we got the notification, but.
So the Climate Resilience Fund grant is actually, so when we applied for the MRP, which we did not receive in the most recent round that we applied for, there was a very small box on one of the last pages that said, click this if you would like to be considered for the Climate Resilience Fund grant. And that box was clicked. So when we got the news that we were not actually going to be receiving funding from the MRP, but we would be in the running for funding through this funding stream, it was through that. So the MRP application, it was put together by, it's worked on by many different people. It's not just necessarily one person. We've had Jim Turek Conservation Commission and other parties in the town who have worked on this. So that's where it arose from. It came from that original application for MRP that then went to this funding stream.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks.
And just to reiterate, this project is for 2 grasslands projects, and it's the design, permitting, and engineering for the New Snack Carolina culvert over by DPW.
And what's our portion of it?
42,000.
42,000.
Yeah, so the MRP requires a 25% match this funding stream also required the same because it was coming from basically the same source.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks. Any other council discussion? All right, we're gonna do them individually because I think we have to include a signature on a couple of them. So if I could have some motions for, start with A. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, motion to approve a contract with Rhode Island Resource Recovery Corporation for solid waste and recycling and authorization for our town administrator to sign.
Second.
All right, so we got our motion.
Just, Madam President, also on that contract, it does request that the town solicitor sign as well. So authority for the town solicitor and the town administrator, please
Okay.
sign.
I'll amend as suggested.
Thank you.
I'll amend my second.
All right, so we have our motion and our second. Any further council discussion on this one? All right, so we'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes. All right, on to B. Go ahead, Jim.
Motion.
Heard you sigh.
Yeah, motion to approve the contract for cloud hosting agreement with Vision Appraisal and authorizing the town administrator to sign.
I'll second it. So we have our motion, our second. Any further council discussion on this one? All right, we'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes. All right, and now on to C. All right, I heard you inhale again. Go ahead, Jim. Nobody's asking.
A motion to approve the climate resilience fund grant agreement with authorization of the town administrator. Just sign. Okay, all right, just sign.
All right, I'll second it. Any further council discussion on this one? All right, how do you vote, Counselor Dinsmore?
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. On to D.
This is just in regards to tax agreements for people who are delinquent on taxes. There had been some prior discussion about a special meeting. And last year at this time, what the council discussed and ultimately agreed to do was to put the tax agreements on the consent agenda rather than having a special meeting or kind of discussing it. Even though it's a public matter, it's embarrassing for people who
Yeah.
are in that situation, and I think to put it on the consent agenda isn't, it's transparent, yet it kind of gives them a little bit more privacy in their situation. So I was just, it's just a request to put that on consent rather than as a, I think we were gonna do it at 5:30 or,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve that?
So,
Anybody?
A
Okay, go ahead,
motion-
Mark.
Motion to include taxpayer agreements on the consent agenda of the May 20th, 2025 meeting instead of holding a special meeting for same.
Second.
We have our motion and our second. Any council discussion?
Yes.
Or go ahead.
There's no legal issues with this, putting consent agenda versus having a special meeting versus regular meeting. It's just a matter of how we want to do it as a council.
Sure, go ahead, Zach.
That's correct.
All right, so we'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. All right, on to your last item.
And the last item, I'm actually gonna defer to Gary.
All right. Welcome back.
Hello. What was it?
Regrading the dog.
Regrading. I talked to Jordan today. He's pretty well happy. I'm glad he has patience. 'Cause-
I was gonna clarify, Jordan's the chair of the dog park committee,
Yep.
just so everyone knows.
Yep, so, and I talked to him and for a big issue, it was a small fix with two things down. Once it was built, the water, if anybody knows it's been down here, it was hard to get in there. And we dug a stump, put stone in it, and that cleared 78% of all that. You can get in there now. But where the low liner, where everybody first comes in, where that settled, we gotta put about, I'd say 6 to 8 yards of loom, and we got it made at the shop anyways. So we're gonna go down and Carl's gonna kind of just scuff that off, get it to pitch to that stone, and that should take care of all that area. And I did and Carl's very knowledgeable of this stuff. And he even gave, I gotta give Jordan for seed to get the mix. It's almost like a superintendent mix. So if the tall fescus, clover, there's no. And Portsmouth, actually, when he did this, they wanted to put the Kentucky blue in. The other one's perennial rye. And Allen's can make up a small bag, and that's all he needs. But the only thing is he's gonna have to shut the place down 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a problem with that.
Weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That was longer than I was expecting.
Yeah, well, he's got a
yeah.
germ, and that's made for that.
Yeah. How much lead time will we have to be able to like put a notification out on like, Facebook, notify me?
We'd
all
rather
that
do
fun
it
stuff?
we'd rather do it this time instead of late in fall. So we still got plenty of time, but we want to stay away from late June, July, and August.
Mhm.
So we get a day, we're gonna just go get it quick. It ain't gonna take long.
Yeah.
So then it should be pretty decent shape.
That sounds awesome. I appreciate the work on that. I know it's been a fun process.
Yep, it's getting there.
Awesome. Any council? Sure, go ahead, Jim.
Just point of clarification, Gary, you're saying, so pretty much in the coming week or so, you're gonna seed that area?
I wouldn't say that.
Couple weeks?
So probably within 3 to 4 weeks.
3 or 4 weeks, and that'll shut down the.
But what if we come up with a good day that works out for us? We'll get over there and just do it and get it done with.
Yeah, I think.
That way, but we want to, like you said, you want to make enough time where you can put something out there, and let it know it's going to be closed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Maybe signage at the park too, for the
Yep.
patrons who maybe don't go on Facebook or even for out of town, so don't follow us.
So we will have to lock it for a few weeks.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, pretty much now that people should be aware in the coming weeks, they'll notice a closure. We're not exactly sure when, because it's gonna be seated, but then at that point, it'll be closed for 4 weeks or so.
But I'll let you know in plenty of time.
Yeah, all right, great.
All right.
Awesome, thanks, Gary.
Any other questions? Sure, go ahead, Dan.
And Gary, you guys plan on putting some straw down over that seed in the germination to keep it moist? Because even if you do it next couple weeks, if we get into another season where we got drought, that grass is gonna burn right up, and it's just gonna be.
Oh, I know. I'm sure Kyle's very
Okay.
with this stuff. He's real good with it.
Yeah, Carl's very talented. He owned a landscaping
Yeah,
company
yeah.
before he
Alright.
came to us, so he's.
And he's worked all for the Portsmouth area, town of Portsmouth and Middletown, all them people there, so. He's got a very great knowledge between road work, landscaping. Very good.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so on to our town clerk's report.
Okay, so, the Board of Elections has requested every city and town canvassing office, town clerk department, to support their budget requests regarding poll pad funding. Poll pads are the electronic poll books in which voters check in using a license. It is not looking like they're gonna allocate it. And so if it does not pass 414 polling locations, we'll need to revert back to using paper ballot applications and check-ins. And if that happens, I would foresee that that would probably be the rural communities that would be charged with that if it's not allocated in the budget. And so if that does happen, I think you're gonna see mass exodus on all levels. It also won't align with some of the executive order that has not been completely defined by the president on what elections will look like. Our poll pads in Rhode Island, we're in advanced in that. We require voter ID, it's scanned, it's checked against several sources to ensure that our lists are accurate. Should paper lists be performed, it could have a major effect on early voting, have a major effect on mail ballot processes and internal logistics to ensure the integrity of elections. So I'm simply asking a letter of support with the Board of Elections funding request for the budget year for poll pads.
Thank you. I have a motion.
Motion to authorize the sending of a letter in support of the Board of Elections budget request to restore funding for the replacement of electronic poll pads in the governor's budget.
I'll second it. Any council discussion on this? All right, hearing none, we'll go. Sure, go ahead, Mark.
You gotta look this way.
I don't mean to ignore you guys. I didn't, yeah.
Just a
Or just say
question.
Madam President, to be like,
No.
hey, I want to say something.
How'd you do it in school? Erin, just. I certainly support this, but if they don't replace the pole pads, why can't we use the old ones?
The software in that does not speak currently to our systems anymore.
Okay.
So there's an upgrade and that wasn't included in the contract and they tried to just upgrade that software, but then they're out of contract on another side of a vendor.
So they upgraded something without thinking about all the other dominoes that were gonna fall.
Well, the vendor had language in the contract regarding iOS upgrades and very keen on them to do so. So I don't have all the logistics on how the Board of Elections acquires contracts, but yes, that's why is that we wouldn't even be able to use some of the outdated.
All right, thanks.
Madam Chair.
Sure, go ahead.
Follow-up question. Because now my head's spinning. Who owns the pole pads that we currently have?
Board of Elections.
Okay, not the town.
Correct.
So if we get new ones, it goes back to them.
So we don't own any here. They're all per Title 17, elections equipment in Rhode Island is unique, again, to most of New England, is all of our equipment comes from the State Board of Election, is procured, and they're in charge of equipment. They deploy, and they have the say on what they deploy based on their rules and procedures to the town. So we don't own any. So there was some previous conversations about maybe some municipalities look at funding their own pole pads. Well, that's completely against a lot of Title 17, and then would be another unfunded mandate to use this pole pad that they're no longer supplying. So, long story short, it's the Board of Elections equipment, it's the Board of Elections budget, and the initial go around is that the governor wasn't going to fully support the pole pad replacements.
So what happens if we don't replace them?
Then we go to paper books. And we
Old
go to
school.
check-ins and there'll be, yeah, I don't even want to talk about it because then you'll have probably 15 people doing elections in Richmond for that process to ensure the integrity. We'll have to reduce polling locations. There's some initiatives of same-day registration in Rhode Island that could never come to fruition without electronic poll pads because they don't talk through the internet. So I'm going to be very cautious on some of the technology, but they do talk in a way to our central voter registration system. So we know if somebody checks in North Kingstown that they don't come and vote in Richmond. They're automatically pulled off. We know that on the Monday, the polls close at 4 for early voting. Those people are removed from the roll on Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. That could never happen if we went back to paper books. We would be here till 2 in the morning, striking through the old way we used to do it. So for the 20 days of early voting every evening, you'd have to have a new printed listing available for the next morning of early voting. For mail ballot requests, the same thing. We'd have to strike them and pull stickers. I don't know if everybody remembers the old forms. You got a sticker barcode and then you signed a paper and then you had like a paper thing and then you had to check that each evening based on the counts. I mean, we cannot go backwards.
And the poll pads come in the boxes, right? That you get. So like, we don't even have possession of them now. When like the couple days before the election or whatever, we get like box loads of stuff from.
Oh, I remember I was a
Yeah.
poll clerk. I didn't remember the pads though, how that all worked.
Councilor Palmashad?
Yeah, Erin, I'm just curious, was this just a budget cut miss or was there
No,
any
it was-
explanation why this
They were
happened?
trying to fund it over time, and so they did try and allocate it a little at a time. And so they needed to replace 900 for the statewide primary. They also need to replace a lot of other equipment. And so I think, given that this was the biggest election, we had redistricting that had happened. So we had way more polls than initially when we started as a pilot in building this. So I think a few things that happened is it wasn't funded in a few years, and now it's to the point where they're not going to be able to fund precincts. So I have a fear that if this did come to fruition, there would be two things happening. One, that maybe cities and towns would be responsible, and they would have some sort of unfunded mandate on the towns, and or rural communities. We have 3 polling locations. I don't think they're gonna say to the city of Cranston, you're not gonna get a full pad. I think they would be more in line with some of the smaller communities to absorb the 400 we'd be short already precincts. So, and if they do it, whatever process for one town has to be the same process. So I couldn't have poll pads here and have paper books over there. And so, you know, they seemed alarmed. So, and typically the Board of Elections does not seem too alarmed on this type of stuff. So, I would be alarmed if we would go backwards, especially given the current climate in some of the executive orders that are being discussed around elections, and the poll books allow a lot of that to occur. We already do it in Rhode Island. We are ahead of the curve that way. So going back would just it's not efficient and it's not effective, and it would be monumental.
Awesome, thank you. Any further council questions? All right, hearing none. Do we have our motion and our second? Awesome. We'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. All right, on to new business. Request from Counselor Madnick for discussion consideration. I'm not gonna read it all. Go ahead, Dan.
Sure. Aaron, can you bring this agenda item up on the screen? So I don't want to read through the whole thing, but I'll summarize some of it. So the full request is discussion consideration to request the DPW director and staff to develop and compile a short 1 year, medium 2 to 5 years, and long-term 5+ year detailed plan to supplement the road infrastructure capital improvement plan. That's item number 02195635. And then it requested the plan should include a bunch of information, but it's not limited to these details. But in general, who and what is done to assess current road conditions, how are the roads prioritized, what types of repairs are available, what is the timeline and process for replacement repair, and what are the roles and responsibilities in the process. Then I provided some justification for why I think we need to do this. Really, in summary, comes down to just project planning and management. We're putting all this money away for roads. And one of the things that I added at the end of this was that in the fiscal year 28 budget, the town actually pays off another bond, which is going to bring essentially another $262,000 back into the town that we can use elsewhere. If you take that money and you were to allocate it to roads, by then, if you extrapolate out our revenue, we'll probably be able to put roughly $1 million a year into roads, which is quite a bit. I'm kind of like an anti-debt person. I don't see why the town would need to go to bond for roads unless there's like a really good deal. But again, that's not up to me. It's up to the town if they want to do it. So I just think that this town has a really big opportunity in front of it right now to really handle our infrastructure issues that we haven't had the ability to do before. And in order to do it in a smart manner, I think we should put together a project plan on this so that we can decide exactly how we want to allocate our funds and what's the most efficient way to do it. So that's really the request in a nutshell.
Can you put it into a motion?
Yes, I can put it into a motion. Yeah, so the motion is to request the DPW director and staff to develop and compile a short, medium, and long-term detailed plan to supplement the road infrastructure, also known as the road repairs MRP project item number 02.19.5635 capital improvement plan at a date to be determined. We need to put a date on this, and that's why.
All right, so I'll
Yes.
second the motion for discussion with the date to be determined by staff, I suppose. So I'll kick off council discussion. I really appreciate you putting this up. I know we discussed this during our budget discussions. We had talked about having a plan for our roads. One item that was within the material supplied along with the agenda was that this is a fluid document. My biggest concern with doing something like this is that the public wouldn't understand that it's not set in stone. Our roads do sometimes need to be repaired based on emergent situations and concerns. But I do also think it's important we're transparent with what roads are on our list and the amount of work that's gonna go into it, because when people call and get upset with their roads, in particular, it'll be good to point them into something that says, hey, this is what we know about your road. Is there something we should add? Like, you know, anything that's wrong, or just to let them know that it's happening in a more secure way than, hey, you're on the list. But I just think whatever method this comes to us and comes to the public, it needs to be absurdly and ridiculously clear that it is, like, so clear we're starting to question whether or not, like, are we making it too clear? Like, is this crazy? It needs to be so clear that this is a fluid document, because I'm concerned if somebody sees their road first, but something unprecedented or unknown happens and their road gets shifted down, that now I'm gonna be an angry phone call. You promised me I was next. No, I didn't promise you were next, and here's why. It was very clear in this road that you were not promised you were next. So I appreciate that you did add that as a sentence, because I expressed that concern during the budget workshop. Other than that one concern, I do think it's a good idea, but I'll open it up to other council discussion as well. Anyone else have anything they want to add? Jim Sand here?
Yeah, I think, as long as, when staff and DPW director review this, and that it's, that these bullet points that are listed here are achievable to the best ability of DPW to determine, right? And I think, from the roads, I think we would definitely balance, the transparency with the potential for change. I think people would appreciate saying, okay, we've analyzed the roads. We see the top 5 roads that are most critical concern are these, and those are the ones that we'll target. And I mean, barring, some catastrophic oil truck burning up a road or a river wiping on a bridge, I mean, I think we pretty much should be able to stay on target. And if those things happen, I think people would understand, right? This is a projection, not necessarily a promise. It's a projection. I think that's acceptable. I think that would really help people to understand where, it would give them answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just want to make sure it's achievable for DPW to do that, so.
Anyone else
That's
got
all.
anything to add?
Thank you.
All right. Oh, sure. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I just say, I agree with Dan, having a plan. And again, I think it's something good, that people can see and read, and, it just gives them, something concrete, something, that they've been listened to, and, and also, I agree with what you said too. I think looking at calls and that there's no way you can stop that. So, I mean, but in general, the ideas I think is really, really good.
Not to put you on the spot, but anything you want to add, just being the only counselor hasn't said anything yet?
Yeah.
You don't have to.
No, I was
All right.
waiting for everybody else. I agree with the idea of a plan. And I think it could be a little simpler. It's hard to predict 2, 3, 4 years out, especially when you don't know how much money you're gonna have. You can't make a plan unless you know what the budget is. So I think clearly, assuming whatever budget is passed by the voters, at that point, we'll know at least what the 1-year budget is. And then certainly would like to see a plan of, this is how we propose to spend these dollars. So I think that can be specific. I think going further out, it would be helpful just to know, generally speaking, we talked about this a little bit before, what needs a complete repaving as opposed to this one can be fixed in various places. And so having a list that kind of lays it out that way, as opposed to, and in some, order of need, but it's always dependent upon funding. So I think something, like I said, simpler that, lists definitely a plan for the year, because you know what the budget is. And then beyond that, these would be the next roads, and, kind of categorizing them as full repaving or spot patching or some other, a process that we could consider. So, and I would like to actually get feedback from Gary, since he's here, on what his thought is on this. But that's kind of my thought, is maybe simplify it a little bit.
Yeah, after council discussion, I was gonna call him as well, because I could see him leaning in and loading up, but you can let us know what your thoughts are.
I think it's gonna come down to all of us getting together to figure out what you really wanna do. I know we got so many roads that have to get repaved. Paving, that's all there is to it. But the other ones, you wanna patch here and there, it's how deep you wanna get into some of the older roads. Because that's still gonna be so expensive to take away what you could be putting towards the patch itself, hot asphalt, doing it that way. And there are places we could fix, cut out and mend. And, the crack sealing, and there are some roads that we've done a long time ago, which we should catch. There's nothing wrong with them yet, but it's time to seal them. But that's a lot of money too. Then you're gonna take away from so much of what you really want to get that needs to be done. So you gotta be real choosy and go over a list and mark, like I said, one day we're gonna take a ride and look.
Take a road trip.
Yep. So when you're ready, let me know. No, but it's a lot into it. It's not an easy, I mean, some roads are plain easy. They gotta be redone with nothing, no questions.
Right, so
There's a lot of ways to look at how much you're really gonna put into this road. You know, and I'm not gonna go crack sealing a road that looks like you paved it. You know, it's like, you gotta really pick and choose and see what you want. And like you said, start with what's the worst, and
Yeah.
but still try to maintain and catch where we don't lose what we got. That is decent. So it's a fine line. And like you said, the expense of that, there's nothing cheap in it.
Yeah, so what if instead of like a 1 to 2 to 5 to 5-year plan, we just had a list of like all the roads, what the needs were, kind of now bringing in Mark's point of like each time council put aside money for roads, now then we'll have a plan. And we're not saying your road will get done in 2 years, we're not saying your road will get done in 5+. We're just saying your road needs to get done. And then as we budget, we can then make those choices.
And then maybe there is something as we go on, looked at, you know, that we could get away doing one of those double chip seals that'll still work out nice, or the rubber seal.
Yeah.
Sealing, that'll work too. There's so many different options you gotta look at. And like I said, it all comes down, and that's the other thing I think we mentioned before. We might have money to do a mile, so we got to do a mile.
Right.
Then next time around, there's only 3,000 feet worth of money to pave, so you try to find something 3,000 or under or close.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying, it's hard, you can't promise anybody,
Right.
so.
yeah, that's why I think just a general list of, like you said, this one needs to be repaved. This one we can, pull out, 500 feet here, 500 feet there, that would work on this road. Or, so I think it would be helpful just to have that list available. So as the money becomes available, it's easier to say, okay, let's, put it here, put it there. So we all kind of have an idea what the.
And look, we'll have to, like you said, document it all, because we just know in general what needs to be paved. We know, it's just in running the road so long, so you just know in the area.
And also a lot of that knowledge gets lost from council to council. Like I got a list of my last term, and that doesn't get passed on to any new council members. You have to go fishing for the information. So having something that's just tangible for anything like that would be good.
We'll get together and show you all them stuff we got written down on that. And like you said, you just can't go, that road's number 2 next time. No, it could be, no, it ain't gonna happen.
Right. And I definitely want to avoid the term, sorry, Councilor Palmigano, but I do want to avoid the term top 5 roads. I wouldn't want anything like that anywhere near this document. I want it, sorry. Because that would give the impression like, hey, my road's in the top 5. But like, honestly, we saw this with Punch Bowl last time around. It was on the list, but then a flooding washed it out so bad where it became a priority when before it really wasn't as high on the list as it was. But it became a priority. So I'm just pulling from that one past experience. But Councilor Dinsmore, you've been really patient. You can go ahead now.
How long does a newly paved road last, do you think? Does it have like a?
I'm guessing not like they used to. I mean, you might get a good 10 years out of it now.
10 years?
That's what I'm understanding about 10 years.
Yeah.
If I've seen some start to decay a little bit before that, but it all depends too. If you're in a waterline area, some just hold up and then some just go right away. But like, it's another one that you gotta keep in mind. Like I said, there'll be a list. But one of the hot roads through is Carolina, Old Mountain Road.
That's rough.
That's atrocious too. And the only thing going down the hill, that's going already cracking sealant, but that's only an overlay from the flood. That's another one. That's just been an inch and a half overlay from the 2010 flood. So, but like I said, we'll get all that together, get together.
You might want to go, one quick thing.
Yeah.
How long do you think it would take to go through, probably a big ask, just to assess every road?
Oof. But I kind of know a lot of them. I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, I probably got pretty much on my mind. I could write down pretty much what in town is what.
This might be a good starting point. Anyway.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like I said, it comes down to what you want, how deep you want to get into. I'd kind of concentrate more on these bad roads we really got, then try to, if we do get a cheap thing overlay on something that's like on the rubber thing, like do that too, try to save that good road so we don't have to get into crack sealing and all that.
Go ahead, Jim. Oh, sorry.
Good, Jim.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I agree with you. I don't think we should restrict ourselves to the 5. What I meant just was we should have a prioritization method, right?
And I can
Which
do that.
roads, yeah, which roads are in the worst condition?
Maybe it's like a severity scale.
Yeah, that's exactly, I mean, that's
Yeah.
where, which were the worst condition. And then, depending on the methodology, you would advise to fix those roads. And also, it might not be the entire road, right? It might be a portion of the road.
Some you might only.
Yeah, so you're the expert, you can guide us on that. And so, yeah, just a prioritization. So, we know what to focus on. And like you said, that list would then pass on to any future council to give them guidance on where we were at that point. So, yeah, it's a process.
Anybody else got anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good discussion. I think I laid it out pretty well in here. I appreciate what you and Sam, what you and Mark are saying about keeping it simple, but frankly, we've kept it simple for way too long. I mean, we've got a comp plan, we've got a hazard mitigation plan. Those things are fluid documents, they change, they can be modified. Mark's right, we may not have the budget to do it every year, who knows what's gonna come up. But if we have all of the various options, the things that we have capability of doing, and we have our severity list of roads that need to have attention to it, we can determine what we're going to allocate money to, because once we have these details, then when you go through the budget process, like, well, how much is this gonna cost? What do we do want to target? What do we have the ability to target? Things of that nature. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's not what I'm asking for. We don't want to have that. We know that doesn't go well. But I think having all this information in one place that we can look at, we can digest, and it carries on from council to council. That way they know where the problem areas are and what our options are moving forward. This is not just for us, this is future proofing this as well. So we have this in place, say, all right, here's what we really need to work on. Frankly, again, like I said, this is project planning. This is all this is. And you've got so much stuff in your head, and so does everyone in DPW. Let's get that on paper, and let's get it out there, and everyone can look through it, and we can have input, and we can discuss it.
Last note like that, even for roads, something, we had to do something drastically, and you can get away from doing a paved job and go third the price of that, and you can chip seal somebody just to get by for 2 or 3, 5 years. So it's a lot of things to think about with it.
I just want to take a second to clarify my opinion and my thoughts, because I didn't say we should keep it simple. I said I think, and I still think that we should not have it be like a 1 year, 2 to 5, and then a 5+ year, because like I've already said, that would just create false promises to people that we don't want to break. But I do think that the questions here are important. I didn't agree to remove any of those questions. I do think language could be changed, like which road should be prioritized. Again, that could lead to a false promise. So we can say like, what's the severity of this road, and have that changed. So I just wanted to clarify my opinion on that, so it wasn't misunderstood.
Madam President.
Sure, go ahead.
On the time.
Oh, thank you so much. Can we please have a motion to go into past 9 o'clock?
Motion to proceed past 9 o'clock.
Second.
Any objection or counselor discussion? All right, we'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes. Thank you so much, Counselor Palmigano. Yes, Karen.
How about if they listed the roads, and I think somebody mentioned severity scale,
Yeah.
like if you did like a 1 to 5. So like, this road is a 5, this road's a 4. It doesn't necessarily, they could be in alphabetical order
Yeah.
within the 5s, all the 5s are listed first, but they're alphabetical so that no one has any expectation.
Or even alphabetical overall. Like, so you could easily
Sure.
find your road, and then you don't see your road in the top 5, in the 5 category, and be like, oh, look at me, I'm at the top of the list. I don't know. I'm just terrified. It doesn't, no. I mean, I think we had a good discussion on it. I will make a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor to remove the term short 1 year and long 5+ year term from the motion.
And medium.
I didn't see medium on the list here, but I will remove that as well.
It was in my motion.
Ah, okay.
A second.
So we have an amended motion on the floor just to remove that one part of this whole project. Any council discussion on just the years? All right, so we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. Now we have our main motion, which we'll ask somebody nicely to read back in case I say it. Which is the same, just not including the year part of this. Any further council discussion on these? All right,
I'm looking forward to seeing what we come up with.
me too. Aaron, do you want to read the motion back or do you want me to? I want to make sure she's got it right. That's really the most important part here.
Councilor Magnet, seconded by President Wilcox, to request that DPW director and staff develop and complete a detailed plan to supplement the road infrastructure, road repairs MRP project item 02195635 capital improvement plan.
I
Awesome.
think we need a date, right?
I
And a
don't,
date to be determined is the motion.
it's a lot of work and I know DPW is extremely busy. I think if we were to get an update on how it's going would be fine. I don't know how other counselors are feeling. I just don't want to set, what do you think is an achievable deadline, actually? That's a great question.
I'm just, honestly, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We're just starting that whole Pinehurst development project, which is full drainage and everything. That's gonna be just getting things going, but like I said, it shouldn't be that bad, because I know a lot of them, so I can sit and pick and just keep filing it and putting it in order and just have it, so that passed. Never mind. So, can't say it. Can't say it.
Certification.
Severity?
Severity, there you go,
Oh.
thanks. But that really wouldn't take me long, with the conditions.
Do you think after the budget hearing, budget vote is reasonable? So like the second June meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's excellent. Oh, we only have one in June, so it'd be early July or whatever July is.
I could even just get a map and do the word, we got all the streets and just put like a 1 to 5 or 1 to 3 describing how bad it is, something like that. Be that easy.
Right, I do think the details are helpful.
Oh,
I
yeah.
also
No.
want to keep it simple, but I know nothing about repairing a road. So it makes it hard to determine how much funding we have and everything going into it. So it would just be helpful to see that part of it. So that way we can decide how we spend
And
what
that's
we have.
because some roads don't have drainage, some do.
Yeah,
I think it would be June 17th or July 15th.
we'll give you till July 15th so we can get those extra details in there.
All right.
Does that sound good to everybody?
Striking a date to be determined.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, did I see a hand up in the audience? All right, Gary, you can have a seat. We're gonna hear from the public
Okay.
before you vote. Thank you so much for your input on this.
Swapping out Gary's. Actually, just to leverage upon what Councilor Madnick's kind of thinking in the engineering mind, there might be some terrain, because I think to the heart of your thoughts, sir, is that not just triage, but future management and even prediction. So maybe predictive software. I know there's geoengineering software that's available that goes into terrain analysis and things like that. To look at the way the water is flowing, and the way there's basically substrate and geology occurring with, as we know, heave and freeze on Gardner Road and such like that. But I was just thinking along the same way. I was thinking, how could we make it even better so that you don't have to drive over 40 square miles, or you could basically just there's got to be a GIS map. I would imagine you'd probably be dialed into that pretty much, sir. But to look at the terrain, because that's really that's the essence. It's not just the triage; it's the actual predictive. If we can come up with a scientific or an engineering way to predict the damage that could occur given traditional rainfalls, traditional freeze levels, things like that. So that could be a real win, if you're thinking about looking forward. That's all I had to add.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Karen,
I think that would probably require like a paid consultant to do that. I don't know that we have the in-house expertise for that, but we do have a list of all the town roads. So I think it would be easy enough for Gary to, since he knows them all, just as something to go by, you know, you could just go through the list. And do a rating scale at, you know, when he's got a couple minutes here and there.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, nobody else looking to speak? We'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Manning.
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And Wilcox, yes. All right, on to a discussion and consideration of a recommendation from the Recreation Commission to form a farmer's market commission. The Commission. All right, sure. He's leaving us. In case anybody didn't hear that, he's choosing to recuse. There was a communication included from the Recreation Commission outlining all the activities they had, saying they'd love to help bring farmers market to town, but does not have the bandwidth to do so. So was suggesting that we create a commission, really with that sole purpose of helping a town built farmers market come to town. Thought it was a great idea, at least worth discussion, and here we go. What do you guys think?
Why not if you have volunteers?
Yeah. What do you think, Mark? No, good. I didn't hear anybody say anything. I can't make decisions on the highs and who's and
Fine with it.
size.
Yeah, I think it's a good.
Awesome.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, I think it's fine, but do we have to call it a commission? Why can't we just find a couple people who want to help put together a farmer's market? I mean,
Bureaucracy, Mark.
I mean, why do we have to have a commission?
I mean, well, the benefit we get out of a commission and an appointment is they become an appointed official for the towns. They can go have outreach when they go to a farm and say, or any entity they want help with and say, hi, I'm a representative from the town. I've passed a background check and I got a point, you know what I mean? Like you have those securities. If you go find random people, you don't really get the background checks done. And not that you necessarily need one to do a farmer's market, but I don't know, it could be beneficial. But town clerk, do you have more you want to add?
So we had a farmer's market here for a long time in Front Lawn. It was run by a private entity, and I think everybody's pretty aware of the policy of land use, and it was developed from that. And so it had moved to Beaver River and then had kind of dissolved from there. And so the Rec Commission did a survey this summer, now that it's rejuvenated, what did Richmond want to see? And the biggest thing was a farmer's market. We want a farmer's market back. And so about 2 years ago, it was brought up as an initiative. And so because it's private, one farm wanted to do it, but they don't want to take over managing it. DEM has farmers markets that are managed by DEM, but if there's a market manager that does that. So I think for volunteers previously, it seemed to be a pretty big lift for like one entity or not. And so there was discussions to reach out to see maybe the land trust would want to do this. Maybe the Conservation Commission would want to do this. And so there was an inquiry to those groups. And I think including the Rec Commission, including the previous Rec Commission, that doesn't exist now, to say who wants to take this over, and there was kind of no response. So it's something that the commission, we didn't formally vote on it. It was something that was discussed at great length to say who could do this at the same time with a lot of the other events that we would like to take place on the recreation. If you did a farmer's market, you're looking at somebody committing one evening a week or a group of individuals, and so the Recreation Commission has some events planned, and you know, we have a full commission, but struggling to get 2 volunteers or 4 volunteers at all of those events. So they thought that the farmers market would be too big. So that's kind of the history of it. We would need a resolution and then there's farmer market regulation. So there is, you know, a few things. But a new member had said that was one of the things that they were interested in, and then fully learning about all the other things that the Rec Commission did was like, ooh, that is kind of a big lift. So, you know, we said we would share it today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
I would say that we should, I totally get having someone who's been appointed, who's responsible so they know they're responsible in their official capacity. But if we appoint a commission, it's going to be subject to open meetings laws and publishing agendas and doing minutes, and it's a bunch of stuff that is unnecessary. So I think what we can do instead is solicit for, that we're looking for volunteer coordinators to help coordinate farmers markets. And then they can work, hopefully there'd be more than one person, together to recruit people to come, figure out who's gonna be here to manage it when it's running. But I just think it doesn't make sense to form a commission, because you're just then burdening them with all of these requirements instead of just, you want people, really, we're looking for people. And if we don't get people, it's not gonna happen. So
Right.
if it's a desire of the community to have this, then there should be a desire to help make it happen. So I think if we put the word out that we're looking for volunteer coordinators to help, establish a farmer's market again, then I think that's the way we should do it.
If we're not gonna do it under a resolution and a formal commission, then I think what we should do is do outreach to farmers market, like go to Farm Fresh RI. I do see our friend in the back from the Food Policy Council, Isaac, raising his hand, and that's a good transition to hear from him. But like, we would just say like, sorry, we don't want this, but maybe we could partner with the Economic Development Commission to say, hey, could you guys just help us do some phone calls for, a couple weeks? Totally amenable to that. We don't have to go forward with the Farmers Market Commission, because I see your point. The OMA is hard. And it's a lot. It's a big burden on them sometimes. So if there's no other council discussion, I'll go to Dan, then maybe I'll go to Isaac.
Why don't we just expand the rec commission? More members.
I don't necessarily always think that more members is a good thing. They already have 7, and that's a lot.
But
If they need
They
more,
just admitted they can't do a farmer's market because it's a lot of work, and if the 7 we
Mhm.
can't do it, then you expand it to 9. You get 2 more people and they can handle the farmer's market. It's delegation of responsibilities.
Mhm.
It's not like they're all gonna, maybe they'll all sit in a room, but I don't think they get all 9, all 7 all the time. I mean, the more people you got volunteering, the better.
Another thought? All right, Isaac, would you like to share your thoughts? I did see your hand up. Hello again.
Read and municipal law. I don't want to be too excited. I would be very interested in volunteering in this, but I do want to ask why the commission has not reached out to Farm Fresh Rhode Island. That is a huge part of their mission, is reaching out to rural communities. Also, oh gosh, I just lost my train. But yes, Farm Fresh Rhode Island would be a great resource for the community.
We'll be
But-
fine that you have our emails, I hope.
Yes, and you have my email, the Food Policy Council.
Awesome, thank you so much. So it seems like there's a council consent, or at least I'm consenting to having a little, oh, we have another one, Gary. Sorry, I didn't see your hand there.
No, it's good.
Thank you, Dan. And Mark, with you pointed that out.
Gary Parker, Richmond. From the perspective of the EDC, the one thing that put some energy in the past month or so into looking at actually the farms that are in town, the farms that are within the confines of Richmond right now. Anybody producing like possibly crop shares, meat shares, milk, dairy, anything that's of a farm product. And looking exactly at where a farmer's market, a privately run farmer's market, not a public private, but like purely a private one with investors, with, because for real people who do farmers markets, I think we all know this, that is a means of income. And so there's actually, if the Recreation Commission had the information regarding the number of people who are truly interested, then it would possibly make it, from the EDC perspective, we could find someone who would be willing to coordinate. In fact, already found someone who actually advertised themselves as a coordinator for a farmer's market. But but it's all private sector, you know what I mean? Completely private sector, not public, not on town property, on somebody's farm somewhere. Or in a parking lot somewhere, you know, but anywhere, somewhere, but I'm definitely with Vice President Reynolds, you know, the idea of having to create a separate body. We're already engaged in this, but we can certainly collaborate with the Recreation Commission. I mean, absolutely. And of course, everything we're learning, we're going to feed to the task force as well. So, you know, so we're coherent. So we're not like going, you know, we certainly don't want to do that, you know. But that's anyway, Madam President, that's the idea. This is actually something we're already hammering on.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad to hear it, and I'm glad you're here to let us know. So with that, it does sound like we have a council consensus, just kind of pause on this item. We do have somebody remote. Thank you for letting me know.
Buttonwoods Motocross, you should have permission.
Please state your full name for the record, though.
Should have permission.
Hello, Jordan Carlson, Richmond. Sorry, this thing is a pain in the butt. I was just one, totally in support of farmers markets, but I thought Rhode Island was an agricultural state, and selling farm products was a by right. Anybody, you can't zone out farming, and I thought you couldn't restrict the sale of strictly farm products. So I thought farmers markets were already like a state regulated thing. So maybe I'm confused, but I'm definitely in support of having a farmers market. So we got options besides Stop and Shop.
Thank you. All right. So again, it sounds like we have a council consensus to pause on this item, and I can move to the next without hearing any objections or seeing any.
Yeah, I would
Are-
just
Sure, go
encourage
ahead.
EDC to continue their efforts
Yeah.
and try to get something going. It sounds like they're already going down the path, so let's let them continue to run with it. Hopefully something comes.
Exactly. All right. Counselor Palmashana, would you like to join us, and we'll move on to the next item?
I would love to rejoin you all.
Shame on you. I like that.
I know, I would have sat next to Iva too. Sorry. All right, so on to a request from Representative Cotter for discussion and consideration of a resolution in support of the Rhode Island House Bill 5634 for defending affordable prescription costs act. Representative Cotter had sent us an email to ask for resolution in support of this bill. I know she's asking a lot of municipalities and working on that. I'll give a little bit of a background. The 340B program is a federal program that requires drug manufacturers to give a discount to medical facilities and that treat low-income patients. This bill would aim to safeguard access to affordable medications for residents. The bipartisan effort. It's a key move toward holding prescription drug middlemen to a more transparent and equitable practice. It'll help reduce the cost for patients and communities statewide. It also helps support Wood River Health, which supports many in our community and is relying on the passage of this bill to continue to offer affordable medications. So I will make a motion to approve a resolution in support of House Bill 5634.
Second.
All right, got a motion, got a second. Any further council discussion on this? Sure, go ahead, Mark.
I would just add to what you said is, you know, to put it in dollars and cents, based upon what the drug companies are trying to do and what this bill would prevent them from doing, would be like a $1 million hit to Wood River Health. They potentially would lose $1 million if we don't protect this program and their ability to sell drugs at a discount and then get full reimbursement for it and help use that for their operation. So it's you know, they were here tonight looking for $3,500 more from us. For them to take a $1 million hit would be devastating to them. So definitely support this so they can continue. And the other health centers like them, Thunder Mist and others in the state can continue to offer care to residents.
All right, you hearing nobody else? Oh, sure, go ahead,
Well, I
Dan.
just want to state this program is nothing new. It's not controversial. Doesn't cost the town or state any money to implement. The only thing it really costs money is drug manufacturers. And we know they make a ton of profits. So I think there's a lot more harm that's gonna happen if this bill doesn't pass than if it does.
Right.
Especially to health and safety of the public. That's why I support this resolution. And our representative asked us to support it. It's a little bit different. Typically, we're sending
Yeah.
things to our rep or state senator, but this time they asked us.
All right. Hearing nobody else, we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and Wilcox, yes. All right, so we have communications, proclamations, petitions. Anybody have anything they want to pull? All right.
Motion to file.
Second.
All right. Counselor Dinsmore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Palmigano. I went to go out of order. Madnick.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I typically go alphabetical.
Sorry, we can still do it.
I vote yes as well. Motion to adjourn.
That's it.
Oh,
So moved.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing before we adjourn, real quick?
For informational purposes only, nothing
Yeah, yeah.
we can. To adjourn?
Yeah.
I think I did, and then somebody seconded it.
Okay.
I don't know, I just want to say that my computer died. That's why I was on my phone. I didn't want people to think I wasn't paying attention.
Oh.
That's all I wanted to say.
Oh, the critics are gonna hate you anyway. All right, so back to our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Reynolds. I mean, no.
Yes,
Madnick.
no, we're doing good. Yes.
Madnick.
Yes.
Palmigano.
yes.
And Wilcox, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.